Hi, hello everyone. We are here to chat comics, Cape Crusader, a whole bunch of other things. As you can see, I'm here with Amanda. We had already got to chatting as Beard Up, Beard Down is saying we're late. It's only a few minutes. It's only a few minutes. We're practically on
Late.
time. We're fashionably late.
Beard up, beard down clearly has not been in my streams because I am always extremely late to stream. Like today I said I was gonna come on at noon to stream. I think I got on at like one o'clock. I was an
It
hour
was
late.
it was noon somewhere. It was noon another time zone.
Somewhere it's noon. I mean, admittedly I did say last night when I left stream, like I know I said noon, but it's now very late and I want to watch more Caped Crusader. So I probably won't be on at noon.
How far
But
did you
yes,
end up getting, like with
I,
everything?
I got to episode 5.
Okay.
How
So
far did you end up
I'm
getting?
still at the end of episode 4. That's how far I got. It
You
also got to be
need to
about like
watch episode
1.
5 because I need to talk to you about it. It's okay. 4 is still really good though. 4 is good, but 5 is better than 4. That's what I'm gonna say. But I'm not gonna
It's
spoil anything.
it's certainly growing on me as it goes. Like it's building. I feel like it's a builder in terms of being a series. But it's one of those things where I don't know if you ever feel this where I'm like, I'm late. I feel like I'm YouTube late. I'm like, oh man, y'all's
Yeah,
watching
well,
something.
because
I'm
like the
late.
day it came out, everyone was like, here's my full review. And I'm like, it just came out. Like, how do you even have time to process this? Well, how did you have time to watch this? People got up, I am assuming, at like right at midnight. They watched, they binged it all. But the one thing that I feel is that sometimes some shows I just can't do that. Like for Fallout, when that came out, I think I was like late, but I also was like, I kind of need some time to watch this because I kind of need,
Mhm.
like, I kind of wanted to have a little break here and there in between watching episodes.
Yeah, I wanted to think
Sometimes
about
I
it.
need time to binge. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I want to think about it. I'm still processing Caped Crusader.
I
I'm
am too because
still
it's doing a
processing it.
lot of different things. It was one of those things where when I saw all the lists of the executive producers, I was like, a lot of this makes sense now because there's several different things happening here. And I need to like process what's coming from where and how it's all slotting together and which parts I'm enjoying, which like parts I'm not, what references I'm catching. Like it was a whole thing. It's still a whole thing. Like I'm still thinking about it.
I know. I'm so, especially after what I watched last night, I was like having a whole moment. I was like, I am there's so much happening and I made notes, but I feel like even after I make my notes, like I'm going to need to go back and rewatch some parts to really like
Mm.
figure out what's going on for me. Even when I did my episode 1 review, right? And my episode 1 review, I even said in it, I'm like, look, don't take anything that I'm saying here as really anything. I just wanted to come in. I basically
And
just
just
didn't
talk
want to
about
be
it.
YouTube late. So I was like, I'm just going to go on and say what I'm at. And I was like, I don't even know where I'm at though. I'm going to be real with you. There are some things I'm not sure how I feel about them yet. So those things to be like TBD. I need to figure it out.
I'm probably going to end up doing a Clayface one because I'm all about the clay list and all of those things. So I'm like, well, we got to talk about Basil Carlo. And there were
Mm-hmm.
some panels that were like literally frame for frame from his first appearance in the Golden Age. I'm like, oh, that's fun. Like that'll be
Mm-hmm.
fun to point out, and the fusion of like the golden and like but the meta powers and all kinds of things. I'm like, you know what, that could be a fun one to talk about, and the Catwoman one too, probably.
I'm like, I need to do. I knew when you saw the Catwoman one too. I was like, I feel like we are going to feel similarly about Catwoman in this, which is that Catwoman is like pretty perfect. Like I'm very pleased with Catwoman. I need to do a Catwoman cosplay. And I was saying this to Uptown Duck and he was just like, didn't you just say that you need to do a Shanks cosplay from One Piece? And I'm like, yes. So I need to do a Shanks cosplay. That's also there. But now I also need to do a like golden era, like Catwoman, Caped Crusader look. That needs to happen. He was like, how many cosplays are we working on?
All of
And you're
them.
my, all of them at once. When will any of these get finished? I don't know.
Just all of them. No,
but
that dress
yes.
went so hard, and I was just like, wow, like I'm really just the look, her energy, their relationship. I'm like, I'm really enjoying the entire energy here, and to see some of those silly things that I love so much, like the Catmobile.
I was so happy to see the Catmobile. Also the Panther. I was like, these are the things I needed.
I love how it's just played entirely straight. Like, oh, I brought this time. Like, when, how, where?
Where did you get that? I mean, yeah, there are also some things in this, though, that feel really goofy in that way. And sometimes I'm like, wow, I really like that. And then sometimes I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand what I'm watching. So I feel like there are moments when they do Golden Age things that work really well. And then there are moments where I'm like, this just feels weird.
I have that too, but that's more in terms of the setting. Because for the most part, the setting is aesthetic. And it's mostly just like we're going more with the aesthetic vibe of it. But then sometimes they'll go with some actual time period things. And then some things will matter. Whereas in other scenes, they won't matter. I'm like, well, are we mattering or not mattering? Like, make up your mind. Like, I don't care either way, but just please, like, so I can figure out what we're doing.
Just pick one. Just choose a lane, please. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, so you're liking it overall, would you say? I feel like I'm liking it overall.
I'm enjoying it overall, for sure. I feel like I'm not having extreme enough of reaction. Maybe that's just all like the cover bait and clickbait I'm seeing everywhere, because I'm either seeing like it's a travesty to like life, or it's like it's the best show that has ever happened to Batman. I'm like, I feel neither of those ways, and now I feel like I don't have a strong enough opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say best show that's ever happened to Batman. That feels like a very bold thing to say. But I haven't finished it yet. So
that's true. I'm like, we're not there. Maybe like all together as an experience, because that can happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But also a travesty. I also am like, yeah, I don't feel that. There are some things that I like and some things that I don't like in it, but it's not like I hate this with all of my being, or like I like am so, well, actually there are some things that I'm obsessed with, like obviously Catwoman. Obsessed with Catwoman. Harleen, obsessed with Harleen.
I do enjoy what they've been doing with Harley, and especially in the first interactions with her and Bruce. I really enjoyed those. Those were just very like kind of catty, and I really enjoyed how they couldn't quite figure each other out, and that was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, that tension was really cool to see. And I think it's interesting what they're doing with her. I think it's interesting. There's so many things I want to say right now, but I'm not going to say anything because I think
it's really interesting, and that's one of the things I'm like, so far about that change, I like it because it's doing something. I'm like, whenever
it's doing something different too, like
yes,
but that feels very
that.
Intrinsic to the character. Like it's different but core character aligned, and I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, it's just a pivot. It's like you could see how either version would happen, like based on this. And I'm like, you know what? I enjoy that, and I think that's a lot of fun. But there is something that I've felt as well, which is I don't feel overall, and again, maybe this will change because I'm not done. I don't feel as much heart out of it. There's an emotional energy to certain Batman series. I'd say like I feel it with TAS. I'd say I feel it with Batman Brave and the Bold. And just like so far, I don't feel it here. There are some times where things feel a bit flat for me. Not all the time. Like there are some things where it really feels like they're hitting, and there are other times where it just feels a bit flat. For me, it's more like there are moments and less of an overall type, experience. So far, we'll see.
I agree with that statement. And I would say that there are like there's some things that work better than others, and that's probably also going to change for each person, which
yes
is interesting. And then clearly there are some people that it's a travesty or it's the best thing ever, which okay, interesting.
Moromoth Hans, thank you very much. It is appreciated. We will also be chatting comics as well, but we're also processing just all of the caped Crusader-ness. So far of the changes that we've witnessed, like with the episodes we've seen, what's worked the best for you? Is it Harley or?
Yeah, I mean, I think because Harley is the most dramatic change.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also really loving what they're doing with Renee Montoya, but I wouldn't say that's like a huge change per se, but it
Mm-hmm.
is something that's like a little bit of a different framing, which I really, really like. I also love Greta. I hope she comes back.
Well, Greta was fun.
Greta was great. Now, is Greta based on anything Golden Age? Or is that new?
I'm actually not
I
sure.
don't
Like the
know.
stuff from I've seen, I don't recall like seeing her. So now I've got to go back and double check, you know. But
There's so many things that I'm making notes on. Like, was this a thing? Ever since you said to me about Alfred, because I had totally forgotten that was
Alfred
gold.
Beagle.
I had blocked that out of my mind. I had only ever thought of Alfred with his strands of hair. Do you know what I mean? But that's Silver Age Alfred. So
yeah, because
I got ahead of myself.
That's after he went to Fat Camp. Because there was a whole thing where they changed the character's appearance to make him look like the movie serials. And so there's an actual issue where like he went off to Fat Camp and came back and he was skinny and also taller and looked like the version from the movies.
What issue is that?
I did a video on it. I did a video on Alfred Beagle, the like Golden Age one. He even came back during 0 Hour and they had a whole issue where he was the Alfred that was helping out Bruce and Tim, and it was fun. But so like this one has kind of a look that's a bit of both. Like he's a bit more portly like the original one, but then he's got like the hair going over. So he's kind of combined. They gave him the Pennyworth last name.
I love the mustache too they gave him. I will say the mustache, I was like, I'm here for the stash. I approve of. But yeah, the Pennyworth last name. And I think also now we're getting into things that I don't like. I'm sorry. You asked what I did like. I answered that. But yeah, what I don't like mostly is, and I don't even think I necessarily don't like is a strong word, but Alfred felt weird to me, but I also didn't have the context of, I was just thinking, I guess, of Silver Age in my head, so it felt weird. But I also don't like that he's called Pennyworth. That also, I was like, I don't know why that bothers me, but it bothers me. I'm not sure what that's about.
Because it's to show the disconnect that Bruce has from him, because this Bruce is very cold. He's very much like cut himself off. Like that's his trauma response. Like it's just like he's not getting close to anybody. Nobody.
I think that's why I don't like it.
Not even Alfred, you know, he's trying so hard and it hurts. Like it hurts. It really does.
Yeah. Especially when Alfred's like, look, like I'm here for you, you know? And he's just like, right, Pennyworth.
He's like, that's great.
That's great.
My coffee's cold. That scene hurt me.
I know, I can't. It's that, I think it's, you know, it's probably just because of everything else that I've read and consumed and that being such a close bond. And it's interesting though, because it does kind of mirror some of the stuff that we got in the Batman, with Robert Pattinson's Batman and his relationship with Alfred, played by Andy Serkis, and that vibe of him wanting to be there for Bruce, but Bruce being like, I don't need anyone. And then Bruce realizing when he almost loses Alfred that like how much Alfred means to him.
Yeah, because
we haven't had that moment yet. So
no, this is how to human Batman. This. Like he's gonna arc. But did you find that too, that you could pinpoint what was coming from which person? Because that kept happening to me. I was like, this is an Ed Brubaker plot, and then I would go check, and I'm like, Ed Brubaker. I was like, yes, I recognize an Ed Brubaker plot.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels, a lot of it feels very Ed Brubaker to me. But I mean, not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way where you're kind of like, this is where this is gonna go. Yeah, a little bit.
But in a way, like this is where this came from. Like sometimes it'll be like with like the Alfred thing, like okay, this is Reeves or this is Brubaker, or this is this. Like you know, it doesn't always feel entirely meshed or cohesive. And like that moment at the beginning where there's that tiny little edge, little bit smidgen hidden, tiny. You have to look for it. Bit of almost flirting with Barbara and Bruce, and it was funny because I put a community post about it where he responded on a message board about how that's just a meme and people blew it out of proportion. It's totally not a thing that he tries to put into series and people are going to see what they want to see, and he ended it with a whatever with an ellipses. But I was like, listen, okay, it did happen in other things. Let's not pretend. And also, it was ever so slightly just the smidge because she made the whole nice car comment. And then that was also what Catwoman said. And that was flirtatious. So I'm like, I can connect dots.
Okay. I'm so happy that you brought this up because I said in my review, and I was like, look, I know we said we aren't going there. I know we were promised that this wasn't going to happen again. And I was like, and I would like to believe that the promises will be kept. However, I'm getting flirty vibes, and I can't deny what I'm watching. And then I was talking about this, and even like Uptown Duck was like, well, maybe it's like you're kind of like reading into, like, I think it's like more of a, she admires him. And I'm like, yeah. But there's a line, and I just feel like the line is being not necessarily completely stepped over, but like very danced around. And I'm like, you're getting a little close, and I have trauma, so please stop that. You just take a big step back. The car line was definitely a thing, and when Catwoman said it, I was like, confirmed.
I instantly remembered. I was like, oh, I see. Nice car. Like, chicks dig the car,
I mean, everyone loves a nice car.
Remember that Batman line? Chicks dig the car. So like, don't play me.
So what's that about? Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm sure they're not going to fully go there, but just the fact that they're even towing around it makes me uncomfortable. It amuses me
though. And I laughed about it in some of the comments because I was like, here they could. That's the thing. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, it's like the weird thing of like, well, we're not gonna go there. We're just gonna like dance around. I'm like, that makes me feel more weird. Like, either just do it and say we're gonna do it, but it's gonna make sense this time. Because here it's like Barbara and Bruce seem to be like around the same age,
and he doesn't have that relationship with her father.
Yep.
So
it's not weird. It's just that it would just be a thing. It would actually be okay. But then they're like, we're not going to do it. I'm like, okay, well then why are you doing it? But yeah, that was a weird. Also, the one other thing that I'm not here for is Penguin. But that also felt weird even to say because I love usually a gender swap. I'm usually super here for gender swaps. But this one just feels like why? Like why?
It was, the thing is, that was it for me. It was like, but why though? And then the counter to that is, but why not? And then it's like, well, touche, because it didn't really do anything. So it's like, yes, but why not? But then again, you can just counter with, but why though? And then because they did some of the Mafia Mama boss, which I actually really liked, I kind of wish that had happened with a different character, because for me, it wasn't adding much to the Penguin. And to me, even though Minnie Driver did a good job voice acting, her voice didn't match the character design for me, at least personally. Like the entire time I was just feeling incongruence with it. So I'm like, this performance isn't bad. It's fine, but just for me, the vibe's not vibing personally,
It's a weird fit because it almost feels like Penguin's supposed to be this like, I don't know. Penguin is a weird character, period. End of statement. But also, Penguin is a weird character because I feel like Penguin kind of feels a lot of the times like an outsider who makes their own thing. That is a big part of a lot of Penguins that I've seen. And this feels like not that at all, but also like it is that, but it doesn't want to commit to the idea. So the design for the character feels weird, like awkward. It's because they kept
the same design, and when you have original Penguin, it evolves especially into the unattractiveness of the character being a key part of it, and then the Penguin using wealth and other things to then cultivate status around himself anyway.
I think they should have made this Penguin super hot.
I wouldn't have minded that, but I feel like that would have caused a different type of kerfuffle. I think it would have been.
It might have, but like it could have been. The thing is that Penguin is like a super ugly character inside, and that's like the ugliness of the character because they really went hard on like this Penguin is really despicable. Like they're
yes,
like,
and I
here's
love
this character. They'll kill their son. I was like, okay.
No, I was like, I love how hardcore this is going, but I feel like it's. I don't know. I'm like, it also felt abrupt and not earned.
It just feels like it's clashing with itself in a weird. I'm like, I don't know where we're going with this. Like, I see where you want to go, but I don't really see the what's the point of this? Like, what am I supposed to feel or take away from it?
Yeah, what, like, yeah, that comes back to the why. Ben Chan says, thoughts on young Bruce Wayne with Alfred when he wakes him up and drafts him into his war, and you're going to help me. Bruce isn't okay. He could use a real therapist who is not Harley. For reasons that will become clear later on with Harley. But yeah, actually talking to somebody, because this is leaning very heavily into the whole Batman as a trauma response, and that he hasn't gone through the period of acceptance and growth that in most stories by this point he's already done that, and he's more on the whole like, and then it won't happen to anybody else. I'm gonna make sure that everybody's safe, not just me. And it moves past that kind of childish, I will avenge you, like personal vengeance, but like he's still very much there in this one.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm very interested to see where we go with that. That's the thing that's what I feel about that. It is an interesting take on Batman, but it is also a very young Batman, especially in terms emotionally of where he's at. And initially I was kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. But then once I was a couple episodes in, I mean, even kind of near the end of the first episode, I was like, I think I can see what they're building towards, where it's going to be this evolution of the character, and we're going to kind of see some of that transition. But they're also wanting to reflect, I think a lot of these characters are a lot harder in general, because it's hard times, It's like, it's the 1940s. We all got to be hard characters. So that's what we're going for, which is a choice that I think some people are really not going to like, and is a choice that I think some people are really going to like. So
it plays out differently for each character too. That's the thing. Stephen Turner, thank you very much. Says, at least it's not as bad as the Killing Joke movie. Never forget.
Thanks for reminding us, Stephen.
I'll never forget. I made a whole video on it.
I try to forget, but it haunts me forever. So yeah, that is, it was and I'll memorable. Tell you what, this show, I think, also in some ways doesn't want us to forget. It wants us to, it's keeping the flirt alive.
Listen, Bruce Timm says whatever and then put in ellipses.
Whatever. That says it all.
Common sense, thank you very much. So Bruce Timm doesn't about Robin III. It makes sense up why Robin III carries elements from Robin II in DCAU. I heard things about that there probably won't be a Robin here. And I know that's also a Matt Reeves sentiment as well. And, different strokes for different folks. I personally really enjoy Robin a lot as a character. I always have. I think you need to get past the hurdle of he's involving a child. I'm like, yes, but like look at it from a narrative perspective of like they're paralleling each other. Take the narrative. Don't think about it, but like take it from that perspective. I like Robin. I mean, but of course, doing a story with Adam's fine too.
I think Robin. I think here's the thing. Like, I don't really think Robin makes sense for where we're at with Batman here, at least not yet. I would like to see this Batman with a Robin at some point, because I think Batman kind of needs Robin in a lot of ways. It's like they kind of both need each other. However, I can understand where Matt Reeves might be coming from based on Matt Reeves' version of Batman.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's because, again, there's so many different things fusing together here. And so for me, I feel like a lot of the times I'm enjoying it on an intellectual level more than an emotional level, where it's just like, oh, that's interesting, and that's the panel from when he first became Batman, and like because they put it in the newspaper in the Catwoman issue, or like, oh, that's that, or that's that, and it's not so much an emotional like, oh, like I'm enjoying this because it's connecting with me, on that level.
I think that I would agree with that. And I think that's part of the stuff that I'm not, that keeps some of the show from connecting with me, because I do really like my stories to be emotional. I'm really attracted to emotional stories that make me like feel things, whether that's like sadness or joy or fear or something. And I don't get as much of that, but I will say episode 5 was quite emotional for me. So that
I'll have to see when I get there.
Yeah, when you get there, let me know but there is something specific that I was like, and then I felt emotions, and I was like, wow, that was cool.
I felt bad because I was
Felt
texting
something.
you last night like 1 a.m. and I was like, oh, it's like what?
I know. I also stayed up like really late though to watch. Like I didn't go to bed till 3 a.m. But then when I was going to bed and reading your texts, I was like, it's really late now. I probably shouldn't text back. But then I thought maybe also Sasha's still awake and we're both just like thinking about Caped Crusader like late at night.
And probably will be for a while. Like I know for me, so many things segueing slightly over to the comics came out this week, and we
Yeah.
managed to read some of them. You were showing me the bag, like the stack you had from the
Mm.
comic book store, just because you also did you did SDCC and you did Gen Con and like all of that. So it's been a
I
time.
did those things. It's been a minute. I know. We went to the shop and I was like, what do we need? Everything. But yes, I like how Amusing Streamer says, I can attest to how late she was up. Yes, Amusing Streamer was there. I did a little watch along on a site, and Amusing Streamer was in the stream with me, and it was also weirdly laggy. So I was like 4 minutes in the future. So I was like in the chat with people being like, I'm just going to chat with you guys based on where you're at because my messages won't reach you until 4 minutes later. It was weird, but I'm so glad that we got to watch it together because yeah, some of the reactions I feel like I had to some things that happened in episode 5 were I think probably pretty entertaining. I was grossly entertained. Yeah.
101 Johnny says Caesar Romero, Italian opera, Pagliacci. I refuse to explain myself. I actually think I know what you're referencing. So you don't need to explain yourself here.
But yes, I do have a lot of I did get a lot of comics. I was gone for a long time. I think we got like over 30 comics, 30 issues of things, and I've also been reading while I've been away a little bit, but it was also hard because like even when Deadpool and Wolverine came out, everyone was like asking me. I like just didn't go on the internet. I was like, I have to go on the internet to do certain things. Other than that, I'm not going there. I'll be away because I can't it's not safe for me. And I don't want anything to get spoiled. And surprisingly, before I went to go see that movie, I got nothing spoiled.
Nice.
But people were asking me, yeah, I was like, I don't know how this happened, but I feel very blessed. Other than like some things that we kind of all already knew about. But you know, some things are just gonna get spoiled, and that is what it is. But it was interesting because people were also asking me like, what are you thinking about this comic or this thing? And I was like, I'm literally running from panel to panel, like on the hall, like in hall H, like scrambling on the floor. And then at Gen Con, it was nonstop teaching games. I did a Marvel Multiverse RPG show. I was on a live stream for Gen Con Live. So I was just like running everywhere. Like I felt like I didn't stop. And then I got home and I like died for 2 days. So and my body was like, we must stop. You have no choice. You're mine now and I will break you.
Now you will relax. Mandatory relaxation.
Yeah, I had, and it was so fun too because I got back and I was just so excited to start like streaming again and get back into all my work, and then my body was like, you're gonna
No,
sleep.
you don't.
I don't think so. And so I just, yeah, I slept for like a few days. And then finally getting back into things now and feeling like, as always, like I'm always behind. I'm always like, I'm so behind on everything. But what else is new? Yeah.
Matthew Prower, thank you very much. So just met SpongeBob's voice actor right now and came back. Oh, from
Whoa.
Scotland. Oh, nice. Or Great Britain.
Nice.
Cool. That's really fun.
That's
Did
really
you get
awesome.
to meet any people while you were out and about?
I did chill with some people. Who was I hanging out with? I mean, I hung out with some really cool people, some cool RPG people that were doing the Marvel Multiverse with me. So Dice Cream Sandwich, Kevin, who's super nice, who was my Gambit. He was so awesome. He's really big on like Instagram. He does a lot of like D&D stuff. Jesse Jurdak, who is Colossus. Christian Lee Navarro was Wolverine. He was really nice too. So I got to hang out with some cool folks. My friend B. Dave Walters, who was Cyclops. I always love hanging out with Dave. I did not get to hang out with Dave enough at Gen Con, but and then at San Diego Comic-Con, I got to chill with Jim Zub a couple times, who I kind of know through some friends. And actually, he was sitting behind us on the plane, and Duck was reading Conan. And at one point, Jim was just like he just like was taking out his Conan reading. Jim was like, "Oh, we're like, what are you reading over there?" And we were like, yeah. And I was like, he is so obsessed with Conan right now. I also got to introduce Duck to Kyle Higgins, who is obviously huge in Massiverse and Radiant Black. And I mean, I got into Radiant Black because of Dylan. Like, he got me into it. And so Kyle, when he's reached out to me to be like, it's so nice to see that you're like talking about it and that you're into it and that you like it. I'm like, dude, like, I need to introduce you to this person, because he is like a massive fan of the Massiverse, and I am also, but like I wouldn't even know if it weren't for this person. So yeah, so that was really nice to be able to just connect those dots. And yeah, who else was I hanging out with? I mean, I went to a lot of panels and saw a lot of people. I got to ask people questions at the From the Ashes panel. I actually went up and asked a question in front of everybody. So that was fun. And then after I tweeted about it, because I did it in character, I was in my Rogue cosplay. And I know some of those creators online. Like, I follow Gail Simone and she follows me, and we've tweeted at each other a few times. And so I just was like, thanks everyone, it was a great panel. And I just shared my picture just so people knew it was me, for the people that know who the heck I am. And and she was like, it was you. And she's like, Amanda. She's like, you did so good. I was like, oh, thanks. Which also, having now read Uncanny X-Men, I can't believe that I got to be there and that I got to talk to everyone, because, like, man, I've been waiting for Uncanny X-Men and it did not disappoint me, and I'm so happy.
I enjoyed it too. I managed to like carve out like a tiny bit of time and be able to take a look at it. But before we dive into that a little bit, I want to look at Common Sense, who's saying, I meant in Cape Crusader, there's Dick, Jason, Carrie, and Stephanie, but no Robin the Third, Tim, the disrespect. Are they going to skip over Timmy? Are we disrespecting Tim again? I love Tim.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, Tim gets a lot of disrespect. This is true. I mean, Tim in Cape Crusader,
like a strong like period. Like, I don't know, because remember, we haven't like gotten like to the end. Maybe there's a whole bunch of dead Robins somewhere. Just
yeah, maybe. Is that what's waiting for us? We're gonna be like in the graveyard, and they're gonna be like, but there was no Tim. But maybe if that's the case, it could be because Tim lives. So maybe with season 2. Because I think it's already gotten greenlit for a season 2. Huh. That's interesting. So maybe there are Robins in our future. Yeah.
But somebody said something higher up. It's gone now. But they were mentioning how like it's amusing when people say that like Batman without Robin, like at the beginning when Robin arrived so soon. I'm like, it's true. Robin is there like only a few months like into Batman's existence. He shows up very quickly. He doesn't stay without a Robin for very long. Will Holland, thank you very much. What did you think about changes in the bad guys? It varied. Mileage varied. Some of them I really liked. Some of them were more some of them were not done. So we'll see how it goes. Like, so far, I actually don't mind what they're doing with Two-Face. We'll see how I feel about it once he fully Two-Faces at that point. I'm looking forward to seeing Onomatopoeia just because I like Onomatopoeia. And so actually seeing him do stuff should be fun. I'm looking forward to Nocturna because I really like Nocturna as a character. I've done videos on her like years back. And so it'll be fun to actually, because I know that Bruce Timm and them wanted to do an episode with her in the original animated series and they couldn't get it greenlit. So I'm very curious to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really excited for Onomatopoeia. I think Harleen I really like. I think that's cool. Penguin, you know where I stand on that one. I think overall, though, I'm enjoying the changes that they're making to the villains. I feel like some are not big changes, though. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of them aren't like huge pivots or anything like that.
They're kind of like, oh yeah, that's just a thing that like I feel like we could have seen somewhere and it makes sense. And not to say that it's, you know, it's not doing enough. I don't think you always need to completely like, we're going to completely revolutionize this character. It's like, we don't always have to do that with every character, but I like the changes that they are making for the most part. So far.
So you got the chance to read Uncanny X-Men. I didn't get the chance to read it thoroughly. I got the chance to do like the first read through, and then I've got to go back and read it again because it is it's giant. It is extra long.
It is. Although when I got it, when I got it too, I was like, oh, I thought it was like really big. And then I got it and I was like, it doesn't feel big. And then I was just, as soon as I got into it though, I was like, this is like a whole movie. This is like,
because it just kept going. I was like, there's so much happening.
I know. And then it would be like, oh, there's this thing over here. And I'd be like, what? I guess that's the end. Oh no, there's way more in here. Like there were so many moments where it felt like that could be where it ended. And then it just continued. But I loved that because everything that came after I was really into. Also, I really love the art in it.
Yeah, I loved how it looked. I really did. And there were a couple of Gambit and Rogue panels where it was like straight fire. Like they just looked so good.
So good. So good. Gambit and Rogue are looking so hot in this comic, and I'm super here for that. I'm like, yes, give me all the hotties. That's what I want in my X-Men book. You know what I want. But yeah, I mean, I love how there's a lot of mysteries in this book. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed is I feel like we're building a lot of little plots, but there's also a lot of emotional connection. And I would say so far of what I've read, I haven't read X-Force yet, so I have to read that. But so far of what I've read from the Ashes, this feels like the book that has the most connective tissue to the Krakoan era to me. So
I liked it more than some of the other ones, the way like they're connected though. Like I feel like it had more of that like through line where it was dealing with it. And I also like that it was connected to the other things. Like it referenced what was happening. Like, oh, here's Cyclops. Oh, here's this. I'm like, thank you. You know, oh, I called Kitty, you know.
It's weird because and then being like, this is like what Kitty, and then it's making you be like, oh, I'm interested to see what'll happen in Exceptional X-Men. It feels like it's actually trying to be like, hey, also there's other stuff happening, and like
you should read that as well.
Check it out. Yeah, it felt like a good little promo for some other characters, which was nice. I agree. I feel like it's weird because with From the Ashes, they did say, right, like every book is going to be its own thing. And if you feel like things aren't really fully connected, that's kind of intentional. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I like when all my things are connected, but I also understand that in that way it can make it more accessible sometimes for people. So it's like, I want it to be accessible. I don't want everyone to feel like they have to read everything. But at the same time, I want there to be rewards for those of us that read everything.
Well, my thing is that quote made it sound like it was going to be way more unconnected. Whereas in this, it's like, here's where Logan is, and here's how he got here, and here's why he's going here. And I'm like, well, so it is connected. You made it sound like he was just going to like pop up and appear places.
Well, but maybe this is the book for us people that want connection. Maybe they were like, because they did say each book is going to be its own thing. So maybe this is the book for us, the connection book. And they're like, and every other book is doing its own thing. Because I will say I read Phoenix. I read NYX, which I do think is carrying... I feel like NYX is kind of carrying some things forward, but mostly I feel like it's doing its own thing with what we're coming out of, if that makes sense. So it doesn't feel as connected to the larger universe, but it does feel connected to certain characters. But I think based on what they talked about in the panel, Lansing and Kelly were basically talking about how each issue is kind of going to be its own character story, which I think is really cool. And this idea of it's not so much a team as it is like us seeing these little peeks into people's
snippets,
into people's lives. Almost. Yeah, of these characters. And just kind of they wanted it to feel very like, I think very street, almost in the sense of the idea of Marvel is supposed to be, the world outside your window. They really wanted to bring that sense to it of us just getting to see these characters in their lives and what they deal with, which is a cool idea, I think.
But then we'll have to see how it pans out in the execution. Terest 504, thank you very much. Asking probably a dumb question. It's not, but why isn't it on Max? Talking about Cape Crusader. Some people have answered it, but it was that it got passed on. They sold it.
Yes.
So it got sold over to Amazon, which is why it's over there, which arguably might make it more accessible for some people, depending upon where you are.
In Canada, it is not accessible when it's on Max. So people were like, wow, what a failure of them. And I'm like, no. Thank you for passing, actually. I'm very happy that you passed because it means that, you know, people in Canada actually get a chance to watch it, because things that are on Max that are animated right now for DC, it's like we really don't get them, and they're usually our equivalent is Crave. We don't even get Max, and then animated stuff just doesn't come over to Crave, or when it does, it takes a long time. I'm still waiting for that BMO series, so will I ever see it? I don't know.
Eventually, I also am waiting on that.
Right? I just want it to be collected. Thank you.
And you can watch it. Yeah. Also, it says I don't know if it's worth telling. It is worth telling, but I drew that rectangle-shaped Batman thing I joked about during the initial Absolute Batman reveal. That's awesome. I think that's great. Tag me in that on Instagram, and I'll actually log into my Instagram and look at it.
Batman Who Lifts.
Yes.
Sounds lovely.
You were sending me some really cool pictures from that panel.
I did.
Yes.
I couldn't. No, I was like, I need to send these to Sasha right away. I was like, I need to pass on like the lowdown here. I'm watching this stuff, and I'm like, Sasha must know what I have just witnessed. That was actually one of my, people were asking me what my favorite panel was, and I think DC's panel was actually my favorite. And you know, it's hard because I feel like also every time I talk about DC stuff, people are like, but Amanda, what about X-Men? And I'm like, no, I love the X-Men. I love Marvel. Don't get me wrong. But like, I don't think people understand like my love of Batman is like, it really is like, Batman is like one of my first loves of the comic book world. I don't even know when it started. I can't even give you a pinpoint. I think I was born loving Batman. I don't know how it happened. I don't know when. I know for X-Men, it was the animated series. But for Batman, it's just always been. So watching that and being so excited for Absolute DC, I was like, this is blowing my freaking mind. And the way that they revealed everything was just so cool. Like, they set it up like, they're like, we're talking about absolute power. And I was like, I know what's about to happen. I came to this panel knowing that this is going to be some sort of crazy reveal. But they started off like, no, we're just going to talk about absolute power. Here we go. And then halfway through the panel, they were like, all right, now we're switching it up. And then they flipped the panel. And then they were like, absolute DC. And I was like, oh, yeah. But then also the stuff that they talked about with absolute power, I was also super interested in. So it felt like a fun bait and switch where I was waiting for the switch, but then I kind of got also intrigued in the bait. Yeah, like I was like, absolute power sounds really cool, and I haven't been keeping up with it in the sense I've been reading it, but I've been keeping up with just what's been happening in it, and just kind of checking in, and everything I'm hearing actually sounds really cool. Like, I might have to go back and read this event because it sounds good.
I've been enjoying it, and I'm excited to see what comes of the Absolute universe. I like some of the stuff that was announced. I'm like, I'm here for it, like Green Lantern and like a couple of other things. I'm like, I'm 100%. I'm absolutely, pun I guess intended, like here for it. And it's just the one thing I'm surprised isn't getting play is the one thing you told me about Superman and like how it's got like this Brazilian. Like,
yeah, so Superman is going to be set in Brazil. I also realized after I texted that to you, I was thinking about it later, and I was like, I probably should have clarified that he's not a Brazilian Superman, but he's based in, that's where he starts off. Like, they're like, he's in Brazil. And I'm like, why is he in Brazil? Like, what's happening? But it's so cool because we don't normally see Superman in Brazil. So, yeah, what is that? And what will that be?
I'm intrigued to see because I've heard some things that like he's gonna have left older and that like maybe he'll have more of a connection to Krypton than he normally does, kind of more of a Supergirl like potential vibe going on there, which if that's true, intrigues me. So
I'm very intrigued. That is really cool. I would really like that, actually. I will say I just really loved Superman's design. I was like, what is happening with his arms?
Yeah, the arms,
his, like, heat forearms? Like, what's going on? Every design they showed me, I was like, I need to know more about this. I am very... And then when they were like, also Wonder Woman's gonna be like a witch kind of vibe thing. She's a warrior, but she's also like more attached to the mystical world. As a Justice League Dark person, I was like, I am very intrigued now. I Wonder Woman I was always excited for because of the creative team, but I was not like, they didn't hook me with anything until that panel. And then I was like, okay, well, dang, this is going to be an expensive time for me because I'm going to want to
Yeah, that's what October is going to be.
Yeah,
I'm planning for it already. Got to start planning now.
Yeah.
Stephen Turner, thank you very much. Jean Grey Solo and Uncanny are my two favorites issues in New X-Men era so far. So hyped for Storm, Psylocke, and Laura ongoing. So many female books. What did you think of Jean's, and what books are you excited for?
Ooh. Have you read a Phoenix yet?
I have not. I've read NYX, I've read Uncanny, okay. I've read X-Men, and I also haven't gone to X Factor, or X-Force. Which one is it? What the X's?
Yeah,
so many
X-Force, X Factor's coming after. I think I'm gonna do X Factor. I think Duck's gonna take X-Force, even though I feel bad because I'm like, but it's Forge and I love Forge. But the problem with this era is that I want all of the books, and I'm like, I can't have all the books. Like, I need to not. Although I'm definitely still going to be reading Wolverine. I gave Wolverine away, and
But you're going to read it anyway?
I was like, I'm going to read it anyway. That's literally what I said. I was like, I'm reading it anyways. And he was like, yeah, well, yes, you can read it. That's fine. I don't own the book. Only I may read the book. But yeah, Phoenix I did read. I actually read it late at night, and after San Diego, I got back. My feet were so sore, and I soaked my feet in the bath, and I grabbed the book, and I just started going through, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's a solid start. That's what I'm going to say. It's kind of similar to how I feel about X-Men. I really liked X-Men. I really thought X-Men was really cool, and about like a lot of it I really enjoyed, but it wasn't like, oh my, I have to know more. I was just like, I'm here for the next issue. This seems fun. I will say, this is the thing. I want to do a video on this, but I'm trying to figure out how to say things because I really liked the art in this book, but I know that is going to be a controversial thing to say
because of the art scandal that arose around.
I need to read about all of that so that when I talk about it, I can talk about it from an informed place. But that was my one takeaway, and then I was like, oh no, I really like the art, and I was like, how will I talk about that?
Yeah, because there's a swipe or no swiping situation going on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need to figure out really how I really feel about that after I do some more research into it. But the one thing I am worried about it is that I am worried that we're gonna be rehashing some of the same stuff that we've rehashed with Jean before. And I know that talking about that with superhero comics is a bit of a weird thing to say because we're always rehashing the same stuff with everyone, kind of, in a way. But I just feel like there's stuff that we've resolved, and I hope that if we're going back through it, that we just find something new. That's all. So, but it is really cool. And I do love that there are so many female books. It's like, and then when they were like, oh, also now we're going to be doing Psylocke, when they announced that at the panel, I was like, I'm so excited for Psylocke.
Okay. Maybe this is just my conspiracy, like tinfoil hat moment. But do you think that they always had planned to make so many of those announcements there, or do you think that they were playing catch up with DC? Because when I read through the solicits, I noticed that some of them were redacted, and I was like, were these always redacted, or were some of these pulled to add so that they had more comics to announce? Because DC announced like 1 million comics at the thing, because like some of the stuff they announced, like Deadpool, I think was always meant to be announced there, the whole like his daughter and everything, but some of them just felt like regular announcements. Like, you know, like, I mean, as much as like Psylocke is like Psylocke, I'm just like, but this just feels like a regular thing. I don't know, maybe I'm just reading into it, but like to me that's how it felt. Maybe that's just because the stuff with DC was so much more interesting to me, because they were like, it's a whole new bigger universe, like big stuff is happening. Because also like X-Men had already announced so much of it's from the Ashes stuff already, and like it won't stop announcing. I wouldn't be surprised if there is like you have 5 more books.
I know, if tomorrow I woke up and they're like, by the way, also, like, I don't know, if they were like, Toad's getting a book, I'd be like, I bet he is. I bet and I bet I want to read it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all by anything they could announce at this point, because yeah, it's getting ridiculous. And I say that as someone that really loves X-Men and wants to read all these books, but I'm like, guys, I need you to chill because it's too much. I don't know, because they did do a Psylocke panel, I think. I wasn't at that one. I didn't make it to the Psylocke panel. I wanted to, but they announced it like kind of last minute. But the fact that it even was happening, I'm like, wouldn't you have to have planned that in advance? But I don't know if maybe it's just like they have certain times that they hold for panels, and then they're just like, and then we'll just fill it with whatever, and we'll make something up.
I don't know. It's like I just thought of it. I'm like, it probably isn't even a thing, but it's just there are just so many things, and
it felt like it was very fleshed out when Alyssa Wong talked about it. That's what I will say, based on how she talked about it. But I don't know if that was like. I don't know how long. I always feel like with DC and Marvel, are they egging each other on for things? Like, that's the other question of people being like, oh, so like they're doing like kind of an ultimate thing. And it's like, well, they're saying, you know, that they've been working on it for years. And based on all the plans they have, it sounds like they've been working on it for a long time. So I would agree with that. But also, Ultimate did just happen and it was massively successful. Well, I don't know.
No, I know.
It's definitely possible. I think
it's one of those things where it's like, am I just inferring meaning as humans do, or is like this is actually a thing? Like,
no, I think there's merit for what your theory is, for sure. But I'm excited for it. I think just based on the idea of this idea of dealing with some of Psylocke's stuff that is heavy, that we've touched on in some areas, like Hellions touched on it. Fallen Angels was a thing that touched on some stuff. The Fallen Angels happened. People read it. Some people really like that. And then there's also, you know, just so much, though, that we haven't talked about with Quanon. And it sounds like what Alyssa Wong wants to do is really take us to a really dark place with it. And I'm very here for that. But then I love that she was like, but also it'll be fun. I was like, will it be fun? I'm very curious to see how you're going to go, as dark as it sounds like you want to go, but you're going to keep it fun. But then some people were like, it won't be dark. And I was like, they literally said it's going to be really dark. But
we'll have to see, because sometimes people promise the darkness and then they don't.
And they can't deliver.
2025, the darkness. I'll be there for that, because they're doing more darkness, just because they also relaunched Witchblade.
Yes.
Which I have been enjoying. I'm planning on doing a compare and contrast between the first like nice issue and this first new issue. I think it's going to be a really good time. I'm like, because I like some of the like early Top Cow era stuff and don't always get a chance to talk about it. I'm like, now is the time. The time is now.
Yeah,
finally.
The time is now. I mean, I think that's super cool too, that Top Cow's kind of coming back in and is going to be doing all this new stuff. Is it a retelling, or is it like fresh?
It's like, it's basically like a soft reboot of, we're starting at the beginning with Sarah Pazzini, and like but
it's a reimagining.
It's like, think of it more like a remix, because like there are some things in it that are like, it's like reworking some things from the first issue directly. Like there are some scenes that are like direct parallels to what happened in the first issue, but they're slightly reordered or happen in a slightly different way. So it is taking a lot of the first issue and then placing it inside of more of a 2024 context. And some of it works and some of it doesn't, but it's very interesting. And there's quite clearly a lot of like love of the lore and the history for Witchblade, which excites me.
Yeah.
They've also made some important updates to character designs. Like there are two characters in the 90s looked exactly the same, and that was Ian and Jackie. And now Ian doesn't look like Jackie anymore, so that's wonderful. Yay.
I think it's also like kind of cool because we've had so much Witchblade history at this point and so much lore, and like stretching back into like before the time of, you know, when Witchblade started. Like now we have like you know, there's like Witchblade back in ancient Egypt, and this is a whole thing. So there's so much more history. So it's like, if you go back and you do sort of a reboot of this, you can actually come at it with like, we know so much more than when we initially started this and then had to like
Yeah, because
find out how that fits.
a lot of early Witchblade is it's finding its footing plot wise. Like, admittedly, it does meander a little bit for the first little bit. So I'm like, but now you can do that thing where you have the full scope and you can focus.
You can figure out like what are the things that we really like need to focus in on here, and figure out how to just make that story be a lot more fluid, I think, in some ways, which is a very cool idea. Yeah, I might need to check that out. I did
like,
grab an issue of Witchblade while I was there.
It's like there's so much like of the older companies, like EC is doing its whole thing. I read that one today, the science one. What was it fully called? Like,
it's called oh, it's not, because I always want to say weird science, but
Cruel
it's not
Universe.
Weird Science.
This was Cruel Universe.
Cruel Universe, like science's Cruel Universe, and I was like, what is it? Something science. And then I remember Duck was like, there's no science in it. And I was like, no, because there's science.
I want to add a science because it is a science fiction book. And I'm like, but they have to say science.
Yeah. But the science is just the genre. But yeah, I know. This is what I'm talking about, though. This is what I'm saying. This is the problem that we face. Because it's like all of these smaller publishers, a lot of them are still pretty big, but I mean, everyone's got something right now, and I'm like, I need you to like stop. I don't stop, but stop. Because, I mean, I will say the one thing that I'm happy with is I feel like Massiverse, so we're still going to be going through everything with Radiant Black. There's still stuff that's going to be happening, but No One just finished, and I was waiting to see what they were going to say about like what's coming next. But with No One, we're getting a movie, which I'm really excited about, and I was like, oh, but that's also nice because I can like watch that. So like I won't have to collect it all and read every issue, and then also like there's mixed media, so it's also podcast, but it's like everyone's doing something right now. Is it Alvin? Yes. That's what I'm saying. Alvin knows. Alvin's like, right? Like, stop making so many comics.
I had to, because in the end of one of my last videos, I put some bloopers in with him talking to me. And some people thought he was my baby. And they were like, I can't believe you ignored your child for this video. And I'm like, no, Alvin's a cat. And I didn't ignore him. I let him in after.
I feel like, I mean, all babies are beautiful and unique, I'm sure, but that would be very strange if that's what a baby sounds like. I don't know. It sounds very much like a cat. I guess some people's babies sound like cats, or some people's cats sound like babies. I mean, I guess cats do sometimes mimic.
Like sometimes from far away, because like on the phone, sometimes if he comes up when I'm talking, people think that he's a baby. So I guess maybe he comes through differently on different media.
Different ears are like, sounds like baby. Yeah, I feel like Alvin definitely sounds like a cat to me. He sounds like a very expressive cat.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. Green Skull 3, thank you very much. Been trying to send this message for ages. So I'm sorry the subject's changed, but who's next on the Clay list? Well, the next Clay list will probably be the Cape Crusader episode, just because it's so fresh in my mind. But Johnny Williams, I know he's been waiting for his day. He's the 8th Clayface. He's been waiting, and we need to get that done. I also want to do the Brand New Day, One More Day, whatever we were calling it, when they did those whole like villain issues, because Clayfaces was interesting. And they did an interesting angle with it, because you can play a lot of different ways with Basil, and so it was fun. They did something a bit different with it.
One more day, one bad day. I don't know what that was. I remember that though. That was the thing. One bad day. Yeah, Adrian's got it in there. One bad day.
There we go.
That's definitely it.
It's not one good day. That would be a very different
one good day. That's the hero origins. The Black Label hero origins. One good day. Sounds like the most happy Black Label book I've ever seen. Actually, I don't know. Are there happy Black Label books?
I mean, not happy. Like really.
Not really.
Some
happy.
of them end like happy-ish, but
some of them are less sad or tragic, but I feel like a lot of Black Labels are like, I don't think you could have one good day and make it Black Label. We need a whole other line for that.
White Label. I don't know. What are we going to call that? Sounds like a record company. That's so
What?
bad. Gold Label.
I mean, Black
That's just
Label
liquor.
already sounds like yeah, that's what she's saying. Black Label to me has always sounded like it's like booze, you know? Like, what's this? It's Black Label. People are like, like whiskey or...
We already have Elseworlds. I'm like, we didn't even need the label in the first place.
We needed the label because we didn't have Vertigo, but we could have also just kept Vertigo. I don't know. Like,
I miss Vertigo.
I miss so many things. I miss Young Animal. What happened with that?
Oh
This
my
is sad.
goodness, Gerard Way, Young Animal. Yeah.
I know. I miss it. I just want Joe back, you know? I just want Joe Moline back. She's been around.
Well, now
She's never been as good.
You're gonna get Absolute Green Lantern though. So
I know. Absolute Green Lantern I'm actually very excited for. And I think Absolute DC is going to be the corner of the DC universe that I'm going to live in for a while, because a lot of my books will also be coming to an end over at DC. Or, well, not an end. Well, an end. Nightwing is going to be ending, right? It's going to be ending? Or is it just Tom Taylor is leaving?
They're switching, aren't they?
Just switching creative teams. But they're going to continue with the numbers?
I think so.
Okay. But I don't know if I'm going to be here for this new creative team. I don't know who they are. Who are they? We don't know yet. I gotta know who they are. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep me. But yeah, I've been reading Titans, Nightwing, Wonder Woman. I'm behind on my Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman I think is continuing. So I might stay with that. But yeah, a lot of things will be ending.
Common Sense is asking, do you think adaptations of Massiveverse should be animated or live action? Because they're inspired by Power Rangers. You know about No/1 getting a movie. Yeah.
Yes, I do. And I would say animated I think would be better for Massiveverse. But if they wanted to do live action, you know, and they wanted someone to play, I don't know, maybe like, I was thinking like maybe Nate's girlfriend in it. Like, I'm totally down to fill that role if they need someone. But no, I think animated would be better for Massiveverse. Just because, how do you do those costumes? Like, I really want to cosplay as like a Radiant, but I'm like, the helmet even. It's just so... It's such a cool design, but I'm like, how do you... I wouldn't want it to be too CG, I guess. Or if it is CG, it's got to be really good. So that's going to be an expensive show, I think.
I always love animation. I just think there's such a range of what you can do with it. And also with, you know, how bright and bombastic the Massiveverse can be. Like, sometimes I feel like it would be really fun to see that animated.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that they could do with Massiveverse with animation. And man, I would love that. But I think people have asked about that and they're like, yeah, but we're also doing this right now. It's also the same thing with people were asking about like Invincible getting a live action now that we've had like the animated for a bit. And people were like, what about live action? Wouldn't that be cool? And I'm like, I know that they're very like, we're doing animated and that's what we're doing. So just that's what you get and that's all for now. You know, not that live action wouldn't be cool, but it's also like, I guess when people are already doing a thing, I don't know. And I feel like for Massiveverse, they've already done some animated stuff. So, and no one's going to be animated, I believe. So I Am No One. That's the movie they're going to do. Oh, I'm so excited for that movie.
No, there's so many things. I'm just thinking about live action Invincible. I like Invincible animated. And the only thing I ever think is when something's animated and people say, what about live action? I always like prickle. I'm like, are you saying that animation is not a worthy art medium enough?
I know, it's like I think that's why. Like I've literally watched Robert Kirkman been asked that question. I was at, not this year at SDCC, but last year I went and Amazon Prime invited me to cosplay as Adam Eve because I have an Adam Eve cosplay. And so it was me and a few other cosplayers that were there. And they were like, yeah, come and sit at the front of the panel. Like we were like kind of like guests of the panel. We weren't on the panel. We were just hanging out watching it and hanging out there basically and taking, like, I think they maybe took some pictures of us. It was very cool. But at one point Robert Kirkman was asked that question, and he was like, he got that prickle of like, we're doing this thing, so like be happy with what you're getting. Like, you know, like this is already a huge endeavor doing an animated series. And I think it's also like they're just really excited about the animated series. And so, and animated is very valid. Like, I just think with animation, there's less limitations as well, especially when you're doing something that's like superhero, where like you're going to space and like, you know, you're going all over the place and like we have these crazy costumes. It's doing all of that in live action is figuring out how does that even translate to live action is a whole other
It's a whole other
debate.
concept in certain, depending upon how it's been paneled and everything.
I mean, look at Deadpool and Wolverine. I was looking today at some of the discourse online surrounding the costumes and people being like, well, I think the costumes would have been better if like they were like this. And I'm like, the costumes were amazing. Like what are we talking about right now? Like I know people are always going to be nitpicking, but just the fact that people think they need to fix something that isn't broken. Like I'm like, I thought they did a really great job with the costumes. And you know, a lot of people worked really hard on that to like bring that to you and think about like how do we translate this but keep it true to form. It's not easy to do that. So
Hold on, Patrick Gerard is saying the Watchmen trailer looks
that.
weird, almost rotoscope. Because I can't hear the word rotoscoping without thinking about Cool World because I'm like that was rotoscoped.
Yeah, what are you thinking about the new Watchmen stuff that they're doing?
But why though?
Right. Yeah.
Like it's not a positive or a negative. It's just kind of like, but why though?
Yeah, that was my initial like, okay. I mean, I like Watchmen.
I do. I
yeah.
genuinely enjoy Watchmen, and
but what are we doing that's different?
That was my question with it because I'm like I've experienced Watchmen many different ways at this point. So what are we doing with this one? Or is this meant to be, is this not for me? Is this meant to be for like people who are
maybe
newer
new
to Watchmen? They can experience this, and you know, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe that is what it is. Like maybe they're just like, you know what? We haven't done a Watchmen thing in a while, and there's a lot of people that maybe don't even know about this now because it has been a bit. I mean, has it been that long? When did the live action series come out?
It's been a few years now, hasn't it?
Yeah,
probably more than a few.
And I think the live action series did something different based on what I know of it. I haven't watched it, but just based on hearing other people talk about it, that sounded like it was trying to do something different. Which just happened. Is that someone talk to me?
I thought that was Duck coming in like, actually, I have Watchmen.
Actually, did you just say something? What? I don't know. There's ghosts, guys. There's ghosts yelling at me from the other room.
Well, I have an allegedly angry cat. You have a ghost, you know.
We've all got, you know, lots of people talking. We all have our things. Everyone's got a thing. Yeah, so I can't hear you with my headphones on. So I don't know what you said, but thank you, I think.
Common Sense is saying there already is a radiant black helmet you get at Star Child Props for $500. And what about Green Lantern Dark? The Grumpy Lantern? Are we talking about Grumpy Lantern? There's a new Elseworlds Green Lantern coming where they have one solicit where it's very serious, but then they did an interview where they talked with the creators and they went on about how she's grumpy and doesn't want to get up in the morning. And Duck is saying he sneezed. So it sounded like commentary.
It did. It sounded like a response. Like, this is the year that this happened. Like, you were like, let me inform you on this fact that we were asking about. And I thought, okay, all right, well, Gesundheit. Yeah. Also, yes, I do know about that radiant black helmet as well, but I just don't know if that's the one I don't know if that's the one we would use for live action. It is really good though, in terms of like, I think if you wanted to do like a cosplay with a helmet, I just don't know. I don't know. That is a good point though, but also it's very expensive. Granted,
Christopher
it's not too
DiCarlo
expensive for how good
Christopher
it
DiCarlo
is.
is telling us that Watchmen live action was 2019. So,
Oh, yeah,
like,
so it's been a while.
it's been a minute.
But still, that still feels pretty recent to me. I'm like, okay. So most people would still remember that. It's not like we're like, oh, it's been 20 years. I miss Watchmen. It's also just one of those weird things where I'm always like, you could just read the book if you want.
Well, it's always on lists. It's always on like musts and also, and I agree that it should be there. So I feel like it's one of those things that, and reading it ultimately is like the culmination of it as it's meant to be, and all of the other things are just icing, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. That's yes. And what will this be? Will this be more icing, or will it be a thing where we're like, will it be like empty cake almost? I don't know. Empty cake. I want it to be good because I think some of it does look good. The animation doesn't bother me as much with Watchmen. I don't know. It is weird though. I know why I understand what people are saying, but I was like, I think the animation, especially in the newer trailer that we got, I was like, I feel like it looks even better than the previous.
No, like
one.
it didn't stand out too much to me. It's like one of those things where I can see why it didn't look the smoothest in the first one, but the second one looked a bit better. Lord Monk, thank you very much. It is appreciated.
Oh my goodness. Empty cake makes for a grumpy lantern, says Count Orlock.
Oh, Duck is contributing now.
Oh.
Also, remember when Marvel did a bunch of variant covers with potential sidekicks for superheroes? Scarlet Witch now has a sidekick coming up.
Oh, they're doing it. I didn't know. Remember when that happened and we were all like, oh, which one of these will get a sidekick? And then and they were like, someone's getting a sidekick. And then nothing ever happened. And I said, well, I guess nothing's happening with that. Oh, okay, so that is happening. Okay. Huh. All right.
I'm all sidekicked out after the Stargirl series. I know that's a different company, but there was like a whole like sidekick explosion where they're like,
was Stargirl the sidekick, or she got a sidekick?
No, there was a whole time travel thing where they went and like got like lost sidekicks like from the golden age, and then like introduced some like other like sidekicks. There was a whole thing, and
how many sidekicks we talking?
There was a lot. There was like 10 sidekicks. it was many a sidekick.
My thing is, if Scarlet Witch gets a sidekick, is it a sidekick or is it like a student? What do we call that?
It depends what they're doing.
I guess, yeah.
It depends what they're doing. Adrian Parchman, thank you very much. Just imagine Inside Out X Lantern Corps crossover. People keep saying that because of Sorrow Lantern, who continues to be roasted in my comments to this day.
Oh. Look, if there's anyone that doesn't need to get roasted, I think it's probably Sorrow Lantern. I feel like Sorrow Lantern's, already having a rough go. You're Sorrow Lantern. That's speaks volumes. So I love how people are like, let's pick on the person that's feeling real sorrowful. It's like, okay, the saddest lantern.
Christopher Carlo says Sorrow Lantern and Grumpy Lantern hook up. Then we gotta do crossovers because that's an Elseworlds type of thing, because we do have all of those Elseworlds comics that are also coming out. A couple of them also in October. So
I'm gonna say something controversial. I want Joyful Lantern. Where's the?
I know Happy Lantern.
Happy Lantern. Where's Happy Lantern? I know. I mean, you know what? We should just make it like the Care Bears. That's what I think we should do with the lanterns. Like,
do they yell Care Bear stare when they all get together?
Yeah.
Shoot their lantern.
Lantern stare.
It comes out of like their chest symbol now.
Honestly, though, like, it does make sense. It is the emotional spectrum, so you could have any emotion, really. It is weird sometimes, the emotions that we've gone with, in some cases. There's some that I'm like, okay, like, a lot of negative emotions. Not all of them, but a lot of negativity here.
Kushik Raja saying Paul wishes he was as cool as Sorrow Lantern. There's always so much surprise Paul hate in the chat, even when he's not in the conversation.
that we gotta bring Paul into it, you know? But I like it because you know what? It's elevating Sorrow Lantern, so I'm cool with it. And I also don't like Paul, so I'll say that's one that if people want to slam dunk on Paul, Paul deserves it. Well, maybe Paul doesn't deserve it, but the idea of Paul deserves
But the concept of Paul?
The concept of Paul deserves it, but Paul himself, I don't know if he deserves it. I don't think he's actually that bad of a guy, to be honest with you guys. He seems all right. Paul haters rise. But you know, we kind of gotta hate. Paul is created for us to hate. That's my theory. You know.
But in that case, is he not doing his job a bit too well? Because there's just so much Paul hate.
He's doing it really well. Yeah, maybe too well. Yeah, maybe. I mean, but I think that's the point of Paul. Paul is there to be hated, but to not necessarily be deserving of the hate. You know, it's like, I mean. What if like Paul and Peter ran away together? Would that would break the internet? What if that was the story we got at the end? The hookup no one was expecting.
That genuinely would be like things will never be the same.
Things
It would actually mean it.
Oh my goodness. We were just talking about this today where at the Massive Verse panel, actually, Kyle was saying after Catalyst War and Radiant Black that I think Radiant Black is set in Chicago, that Chicago's never going to be the same. And I was like, and he was like, and you know, some companies, when they say these things, and then it's like, you know, a bit of time passes and everything's back to normal. And he's like, wait, we mean that nothing will be the same. It's going to forever change these characters in this place. What's happening in Catalyst War. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm scared.
It's exciting, though.
That would change Marvel Comics forever. Paul and Peter. Yeah. Can't come back from that.
Until the next retcon, then you can come back from it. Paul was a clone the whole time. I don't know.
Paul was secretly Mary Jane in disguise. Now they're married.
I'm gonna work a clone into it somehow because you know Marvel loves a good clone plot. So
right, Paul was secretly a clone of Gwen Stacy, who we thought was dead but wasn't, and then Peter has his heart broken and he runs back into the arms of Mary Jane, and then they're married again.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. We fixed everything. The end. Gwen's still dead though. Sorry about that.
Aussie Dragoon says happiness, the hot pink lantern. I think aren't there gold lanterns? Are there not golden? If there aren't, then gold, is that the color of happiness?
Gold could be the color. I mean, yeah.
Who in the DCU do y'all think would be worthy of a happy lantern ring?
Who's the happiest? Who
operates from a place of
joy,
of happiness? Yes. That's actually really hard.
It's a good question.
That's actually really hard to think about because even people who are in like a good place, I'm not sure if I'd say they're operating from like a happy
place. Yeah, happy to be here and doing this. I mean, I can't say in the DCU, but I'd say most days Kamala Khan from Marvel could be a happy lantern if we're doing a crossover. Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, or like I say, Jimmy Olsen. Yes, give more powers to Jimmy. More Jimmy becoming a superhero.
That's what we need. Maybe I want to say Nightwing sometimes, but not all the time.
Stephen Gamble is saying, to be honest, how about Kite Man? Throwing Kite Man into the mix.
Kite Man is a happy lantern. I don't know if the world's ready. Is the world ready for that? I mean, yeah, who's happy? Starfire's happy if it's Teen Titans Go. She's happy all the time.
You know, if you mention Teen Titans Go, then somewhere someone's head explodes. So.
Yeah, I like Teen Titans Go. I'm that person. Too. So
no,
okay, all right. Okay, yeah. Well, so sorry, we just exploded a few people's heads for sure.
It's scanners like somewhere out there. And there's someone's like, I sense a disturbance in the forest.
Every time I say that to someone else, there's a certain response I get. Is it the same response that you get?
Is
that it? Is Alvin doing the response for us? It's a call and response.
I usually get the response of, well, you're wrong, and it's terrible.
I usually get the response of, well, I like Titans. And I'm like, right. Well, I like Teen Titans Go. I like Titans too, I say, but I like Teen Titans Go too. And they're like, yes, I think Titans is better. And I'm like, well, I think they're very different. So I don't think we could even put them in the same lane other than they're both, I guess, about the Teen Titans. They're both Titan shows. But other than that, very different.
I haven't
concepts.
ever gotten that because for me, unlike my channel, usually
you're wrong.
People are showing up to be like, I also dislike Titans.
Okay, all right, there you go. Yeah, a lot of people tell me that they like Titans, and then I say, oh yeah, well that's fine, I like that too. And then they're like, right, but like that's clearly better. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know. I mean, I think they're different audiences. That's what I say. They're watching these shows. Although that being said, I don't know. I watch a lot of shows, but I also watch definitely a lot of shows that I think are targeted towards a younger demographic. Just like I also read a lot of books that are targeted towards a younger demographic. Just like when I was a kid, I read a lot of books that were targeted towards an older demographic. And I can find merit in them, but I'm like, also I can acknowledge sometimes when I'm reading a book that is like a children's book, and I'm like, well, I didn't like this part, but also, you know, I'm much older than the audience. I'm not 8, so.
I like to check them out because I'm curious about them. Like, I genuinely am. Like, the most recent thing that was, like, for kids that I watched through was Bat Wheels. Because, like...
Oh, that's the one with all the cars, right? Like, everyone's car.
That's where... Okay, so, like, his cars... like, the cars come to life, and then the cars fight crime.
I've seen a few episodes of this, and I gotta say, I was like, I'm weirdly enthralled. And I think I have some Bat Wheels toys.
You see, I made a joke in a video that I'm like, we don't talk about Bat Wheels. And people are like, Bat Wheels is fine. And then I had to be like, okay, the show Bat Wheels isn't atrocious. Like, I can sit and watch an episode of Bat Wheels. It's fine. But it's the marketing in Bat Wheels is insidious. Like, watching it with, like, the kids after an episode, it's like, we want this car. We want that car. Look at that car. Wasn't that a cool car? And I'm like, it's working. Look at the marketing.
It is. I have some toys. It worked on me. I got brainwashed. It's shameless. And I mean, it's maybe evil because I'll tell you what, I am an adult with my own money that if I say, you know what, I'm going to buy some Bat Wheels toys, whatever, I can do that. But like a child is going to like come to a parent and be like, get me this thing. And they're going to try to extort you in a way of, you know, I would like this toy. And I know because I was a kid and I used to do that all the time to people. I used to take my parents around and show them toys. I would say, you don't have to, and my mom would say, I'm not getting this for you. And I'd say, no, I know, I just want to show it to you. That was always my pitch. No, I just want to show it to you. And I'd be like, let me show you these features on this toy. Let me show you what we're working with here. And it's only, what is this, $20? Come on. Not for me, just in general.
I always have them think about it. I'm like, well, if in a week you still want the car, we can talk about it. And like, if I'm lucky, they forget. And they did forget the Bat Wheels. And I'm like, yes, the Bat Wheels have been forgotten.
Doesn't have the staying power.
It doesn't have staying power. It wasn't like proper love. It wasn't like a Paw Patrol. Like, it's not in deep like that or anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I feel about Bat Wheels, where like when I watch it, I'm just like, I don't feel compelled. It's not like Teen Titans Go, okay? Like Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go, though, I could sit down and I could binge Teen Titans Go. Like, I actually will get sucked in and be like, I just want to keep watching Teen Titans Go. It's like, I'll just keep going episode after episode and I'm having a fun time. Whereas Bat Wheels is like, I'll watch an episode of it and kind of be like, huh. And then I'll be like, okay, I need to watch something else now. Like, I can't watch this forever. It hurts a bit. It's like a sting behind my eye, but it's not unpleasant. If that makes sense. So I like it.
Christopher DiCarlo is saying, Amanda, brainwashed? Never.
Me? Yeah, never. Brainwashed by advertising for toys? Never. Me, the person that owns a million toys, that when kids come into my abode, like when my friends bring their kids over, they're like, "Whoa, can we like play with everything?" I'm
Because
like,
you've got
"Yeah,
the cool stuff.
I got the cool stuff." They're like, "Hide all your collectibles," and I'm like, "I mean, they're literally toys. Like, if they want to play with the toys, like they are toys. What? I'm gonna tell them don't play with that? Like, I hope I'm never that person. If I'm ever that person, I don't know. Something needs to be done. Like beyond statues. Like if something's like, if someone came in here and was like, I want to play with this Liu Kang statue, I'd be like, that's weird. Don't I'll get you something better than that. Like that's sharp and not something to play with. But other than that, like anything that's like a plushie or like even Funkos, I open up Funkos and let kids play with them. Things like that. Like I literally have a million board games. Like, yeah, I'm gonna let you play with that. That's literally a game. It's for playing. Play
No,
it.
that's how I feel about like the toys. I'm like, I want them to be played with and loved
Yeah.
and enjoyed. Otherwise, I don't feel like they're fully fulfilling their function. Like the only reason Kirk's not out is because of his little like bits that are like he has extra hands and he has he has a phaser and like a couple
Yeah.
of other
You gotta
things.
watch people. You can't just be giving them Captain Kirk with a phaser. That's dangerous. What is it set to as well?
It's set to choking hazard. That's what it's set to. But Adrian Partsman says Teen Titans Go is overhated, but the oversaturation of the Cartoon Network schedule pushover other people's shows like that didn't help. It's true. I was over at a friend's and we just had like Cartoon Network on and it was just constant. And it was just like, wow, like they really just play this for hours, huh? Because normally I'm watching it on a streaming service or someplace like that, not on the actual channel. So experiencing it like that, I was like, yeah, it would be kind of annoying if you were wanting to watch anything else because it's literally all there is, apparently.
Yeah, I feel like for me, because Cartoon Network is like it's like a treat. It's like I only get it at certain times. So for me, it's like when I would go to Cartoon Network and Teen Titans Go would just be playing like marathon, like nonstop Teen Titans Go. I was like, oh yeah, sweet. It's my time. But if you were watching that all the time, yeah, that would make you go crazy for sure. You'd be like, this is too much. Because the characters are kind of grating for sure. Like,
Yeah, because they're annoying and like a lot,
Yeah.
like they're supposed to be annoying.
that's the point. So it's like they're supposed to be annoying, but also then if they're supposed to be annoying and then that's 24/7 your life, you'd be like, I hate this show. I hate it. So yeah, if you're over see this is the thing too though, right? Because I don't have kids, it's like I will watch things that other people are like, oh man, I can't watch this. I've seen too much. Like I watch this all the time. And I'm like, yeah, for me, it's like I watch it when I want to watch this kid's show and then I turn it off. So I don't have anyone there being like, okay, let's watch it again like 10 times on repeat. And I know because also whenever I'm hanging out and there were kids around and then kids will even be like, let's do this thing, let's do it 10 more times on repeat. And I'm like, okay, like 10 times is good, but then when it gets to the 11th time I'm like, maybe we do something different. And they're like, no, you got to throw me up in the air again. I'm like, okay, but my arms hurt. And they're like, so that's a you problem.
No, that's the thing. It's like when you introduce certain shows, there's always like how many times can I watch this? Like if they want
You
to
got to
see
think
this,
about that.
like
Yeah.
a million times,
Can
will
I
I
handle
be able
it?
to do
Will this show break me?
it?
Yeah. And then think about that before you introduce it as like
Exactly, before you make it
Yeah.
exist in the world. That's the thing. I didn't get there before Bat Wheels. So like they found Bat Wheels for me.
Dang it. Not Bat Wheels. Yeah, Bat Wheels though is I wonder what that pitch meeting was even like.
I can imagine it right now. It's like, listen, Batman's car.
Look, everyone loves Batman's cars. Batman, it's got cool cars. Everyone's here for it. The ladies love it. Catwoman, Barb recorded. Everyone loves cool cars. So, kids, they also love cool cars. So, what if the whole show is just cool cars?
What if
And
the
what
car is
if-
locked?
It's like a fever dream when I watch it. That's the thing.
It's really funny because for me as an adult, it just feels like it's an excuse for Batman not to have to fight crime because now his car is doing it for him. which makes me laugh every time. It's like, oh, finally, he has some time off because all his cars and helicopters and everything are doing it for him.
Batman doesn't need to do anything. His car's got this one.
Oh, now he wants to leave.
Oh, all right. He's out. I think we turned him off with our Batwheels talk.
Well, I mean, I think that was the most on camera he's ever been when he hopped up at the back there.
Oh, okay. So maybe we brought him in with the Batwheel talk. Is that what you're saying? He had a lot to say about a lot of things, actually, I would say.
He's like, my work here is done.
Said it all.
Rockstar, thank you very much. The Crisis on Infinite Earths movie trilogy recently ended. What hopes do you have for the next animated universe? I'm not sure because the direct-to-video like outings are always in a very interesting space. And like especially for the last few years. I feel like there are so many that have come out and just have kind of like flown under the radar. I'm honestly not sure what I'd like to see. I know they have a couple of things that they've like quasi announced or things they've been flirting with for a long time, like Superman Red Sun and like a couple of things. Like, didn't they already do that one? Am I forgetting that they did it? There are so many that are coming out. Like the Doom that came to Gotham came out.
A Red Sun one, but I haven't even watched Crisis on Infinite. People ask me about Crisis all the time, and I'm like, I haven't watched it yet. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't watched a lot of DC animated movies, admittedly, though. It's not my. I need to get into it. I need to finish the Green Lantern one. I started that one. I haven't finished it yet.
Tim McCabe says, I am Batman. Ka-chow. It's the crossover that we need.
Oh, boy. Oh, the world's not ready.
I am Vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Speed.
I think the weird thing, too, is that, like, a lot of the cars, like, don't... Like, it really is, like, a melding of two worlds where you're like... These cars don't even sound like the people that they're connected to me. Like,
no, they don't.
They're just
That's
cars.
The thing. They don't have like personalities like match their owners. See, it came out a while ago. I've memory hold it in my brain. That's not a great sign. But again, it might mean nothing because like we read and go through so many things. Like, have you ever had the experience where you've made a video on something and then you've forgotten that you did it?
Yeah, probably. Because if you were to ask me right now, like, what videos, like, I don't know. There's many times that I've done a thing and then been like, what did I just do? Like, I do that all the time now. I feel like that gets worse as time passes. You do things and you're like, what did I do? What did I just talk about? Where am I? What time is it? What day is it? What year is it? I definitely do that. And I forget. It's also hard when you are reading comics and watching things and there's like an intermingling of stories, obviously. And then there's like an animated movie, there's the live action, there's the comic that's the modern version of that story and then the original one. And you're just like trying to then explain a story that's from one of those things. And you're like, in your mind, do you ever get them mixed up? And you're like, then they go to, wait, or is that in the animated show? Or is that in Batwheels? Or where did I watch that?
What I find is that sometimes with the volume of stuff coming out across different things, sometimes not everything's on one source. That happened to me recently, actually, with Shauna Belzer, where I thought I had everything, where I was like, okay, I think I've got all the appearances. I think we're good. We've gone through, I checked all like 2024 search, all those kind of things. Okay, I think we're good. And then it turns out, because I hadn't kept up with it, that she was a character in the webtoon series with Zatanna. And I was like, that feels like a pretty big deal, but like it hadn't been updated places as of yet. And it happened a little bit ago, apparently. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about it. I'm glad. I'm excited to see what comes of that. And if because lots of people had lots of ideas in that video about what they would have done. So I'm like, oh, well, this will make the video fun because now we can see if any of those things actually came to pass. But it's one of those things where it's like there's just so much out there that sometimes it feels like there's just stuff in corners that you don't know, happen.
Yeah, especially when it's not like being cataloged properly, like, which happens. It's like you go to all the places where you know things are, and you're like looking at everything, and you're like, I've looked at every source that I have, and then it's just like, oh, but this one thing didn't get updated, and so this little corner that you didn't check. It's like, even when you triple check things, sometimes there's stuff that you miss, and it's hard with especially I find with DC, but also just with comics in general. There's a lot to cover. So I miss stuff all the time, and then people are always like, oh, how you know all things, how could you miss? And I'm like, I do not know all things. Please don't say that about me. I know some things. I have knowledge of some things. Some of them, but not everything, because there's a lot to know. So it's
that's why I'm always so like time of recording or like things, because I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm kind of like, that's, you really don't know what you don't know. So
this is why I love my like collections, all my like when you get like what is it called? You get a book, it has everybody's sheets in it.
Oh, like
these are all the maps. I love those, because I just love being able to like go to a data sheet that's like new and up to date, and so it was someone's job to like go through everything. And then even that, like, they could miss stuff, and it's like that was literally somebody's job, and it's official. It's like official DC or official Marvel, and that even might miss something. But that always also kind of makes me feel better if that misses something. If there's something I'm reading and I'm like, well, this you didn't mention, but that's okay because I know that one. I'm just like, look, see, we all do it. Even the people that, that's their job, and that's fine. You can't always fit everything, but it's nice to read those because they give you like an update. So then it's like, if you read all of them through all of time, you have so much knowledge.
No, it's nice. I just honestly like knowing what's happening with people. Like, I'm so fascinated. I'm like, has this character come back? Like, are they doing stuff? Like, what are we doing with, like, there was a moment and I was so excited that it was going to be a thing, and then it wasn't a thing, and I was really sad. But it was for this really, okay, the Green Lantern Daniel, who I've talked about a few times on these streams, who was like in one issue. So yes. I saw that there was an update, allegedly, and it was in the Grant Morrison run, and I was like, oh my goodness, is this one of those moments where there's going to be like a dark, edgy Daniel update? But then Daniel was just on the cover, and I was so sad. I was like, oh, I thought we were doing a thing.
They baited you with Daniel. They were like, Daniel, and you were like, oh, more Daniel, and they're like, just kidding, we just used him. We like Daniel, but not enough to put him in this.
On the cover, he was wearing a cowboy hat with the Green Lantern uniform, and that never happened. And I was like, missed opportunity. Like, now I'm never going to get to see that.
I'm never going to get to see that. Well, you should never say never, because sometimes things on covers do come to pass, even when they're not reflective of whatever is inside. Someone might see that image that's a creative and be like, we should do this cowboy Daniel. That needs to be something. Write it down. There are many times that I get ideas like that for things, and then I'm just like, this would be a cool idea. And then people are like, do you write comics? And I'm like, no. Sometimes people think I'm a comic book writer. Has that happened to you?
Sometimes people like pitch that I should be an editor.
Oh, like, well, you should be an editor.
They're like, would you ever want to like edit? I'm like, I enjoy editing in all of its various forms,
but I don't know about for comics. But yeah, I feel like you'd be a great editor. I feel like with all the knowledge that you have, that's what you need, I feel like, as an editor. And then also a passion to edit. And also I think maybe be good at balancing what a company wants and what creatives want, because I think that's also the role of an editor. But
yeah, because you need to, it's more than just, going in and finding
revising
mistakes and stuff like that.
It's a lot. It's a big job.
It is a big job. And as I was saying, there can be only one E. Nelson Bridwell. It's true. I love how obsessed with canon Bridwell was, and how much he tried to like tie everything together and create all of these connections and stuff. Even when like in the Super Friends, we're like, okay, let's get into the deep lore of the Super Friends and how everything connects. Which, they're releasing, for people who collect things, they're releasing the Super Friends on Blu-ray. So you're going to get updated graphics Super Friends. I saw the announcement.
Oh boy. Updated graphics. That's what everybody's been waiting for. They're like, finally we're gonna get these updated graphics. I've been waiting my whole life. That's really cool though. Actually, that's gonna be on
It
Blu-ray.
is.
You can have
No,
it
I love
collected.
that.
Yeah.
Well, Balls Monkey is saying, I feel like you'd get drunk with power adding editor's notes. I do love an editor's note. It's true. They need to hold me back.
Yeah, they'd be like, you need to stop putting in so many editor's notes. Now, I feel like that would be good though. I feel like a lot of readers would be very appreciative of all your editor's notes. Because as a reader, I love an editor's note. It's like a little treat. You're like, oh, this is so helpful.
Because then you know where to go. I'm like, then you can go and like check out a thing.
I actually, it bothers me sometimes when people do like a really deep cut on something, and then it's just like, yeah, you never did take that trash out, and that's why that world exploded. And you're like, what? Is that real? Or are you just saying that? And then there's like no note, and you're like, what was that about? And then you have to like find the one friend that's like, oh yeah, that was like 5 years ago in this like one story, and it's not even in the same series. It was like in this other person's series, and that happened. And so that's what they're referring to. And you're like, okay, that would have been cool to have that editor's note, because I would have liked to go back and check that out.
The_night hours is saying, I need to get back into comics. I wonder if there's anything Green Arrow going on. There is. There is Green Arrow for you. If you are looking for Green Arrow has an ongoing series at the moment. So that is happening. Green Arrow is also an important part of Absolute Power. So there's a whole bunch happening with Ollie, actually. It's been a while, but it is.
Do you think they're going to do an Absolute DC Green Arrow?
I know what I'm looking for. I'm searching. Like, not actively, but just like for Aquaman.
Searching for Aquaman. Yeah, I think Aquaman would be a really cool character to do. Like, you could do a lot with that.
You could get real different with Aquaman. It's like, they talk about how James Wan in the movie wanted to do a whole horror thing with Aquaman. And I
can tell that was a thing.
Like in the trench scenes and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, I would have loved that though. I think that would have been so
I wish
cool.
They went full with, I mean, there's a lot of problems with that movie, but the biggest problem, I think, is that like it just never like is like fully doing anything. Like, it's just not fully doing anything. You're like, just do something, please. I can tell you have thoughts, but that's it. That's all. You're like, I have an idea, but I won't do it. But yeah, I feel like that would be really cool. A horror Aquaman. Ooh.
Because they did the Black Label thing. And like, I feel like that kind of flew under the radar, but they kind of did like an almost like cosmic eldritchy type like Aquaman thing. But I think you could do some really interesting alternate takes on Aquaman if you were really planning on being really different with it. That could be fun. Stephen Turner, thank you very much. Are you reading Ultimate Black Panther? I recommend, if the art is not so good and it's got such an interest, I recommend it not. Art is so good and it's got such interesting take on characters like Storm and Killmonger. I'm reading all of the Ultimate books, actually. That's why I'm not reading like Venom War and stuff, because I'm like, I had to choose. A choice had to be made.
Choice had to be made. Lines had to be drawn. Is it Venom War or is it Ultimate? I am not. I've only read issue 1 of Ultimate Black Panther, but I did like it, and I would like to read it. Would you recommend? Should I be getting in it? Would you also agree with Steven here? I think Storm and Killmonger looks super cool.
It's worth reading. Like, for sure. I've been enjoying the Ultimate line overall. I think X-Men is my favorite, followed by Spider-Man, but I think Black Panther is also worth reading. Steven's saying, I meant the art is so good. I figured. I was like,
I was like, I think it's like, if not, art is so good. And I was like, I know where you're going, Steven. I'm following you. Art is so good. Yeah, it does look visually really good as well. And I also feel like that's the thing. I want to read like almost all the Ultimate stuff, because like everything looks really good in a different way, which I see. This is when they said for From the Ashes, like every book, like it's not, if you feel like it's not connected, that's like intentional. that's kind of how I feel like with Ultimate, but I do feel like everything is still connected, but it's like everything is its own vibe. And I'm like, I really like that about it, but it's all connected still. And I've read a little bit of Ultimates, which I really like that. I've read, I've peeked in on Spider-Man here and there, and I like what's happening in Spider-Man. I think that's all really cool. Ultimate Black Panther, I think, looks really good. And then Ultimate X-Men is the one that I'm actually keeping up with. And yeah, I love it. I love Ultimate X-Men. But, you know, I'm a Momoko stan, so I would love it. It was... I was targeted with that one. When they said, we're giving Momoko X-Men and she can do whatever she wants, I was like, I will be there for that. Whatever it is. And I hope it's really weird. And then they were like, guess what? It's really weird. And I was like, yay.
It's like somebody made a comment on the video I did discussing how it's different from the other books, saying that they feel that it's still paced with a manga style pacing, and that might be why some people are having a hard time getting into it because it's coming out monthly, which was something I thought about. I'm like, I can see that, because if you do read it as a chunk, it doesn't feel as like stretched out as when you're doing it the month to month, because like we're already at the point where like we're starting to get like the X-Men vibes, like, okay, now there's a team and now there's going to be Psylocke and now we're going to be doing like all of these things. So I'm like, it is getting there, but I do agree that like month to month, it can feel pretty slow if you're not used to that pacing.
Yeah, I would say, see, this is my favorite way to read Momoko, though. Like, I would recommend to people, if they're, I guess, newer maybe to her stuff, especially like over at Marvel, I like to read it month to month, and then when it's done, I go back and I read it all like in one sitting. And that's my favorite way to read her stuff. But I could see that being, it's weird because people will be like, oh, it's like so different, but then I'm like, but I feel like a lot of the Ultimate stuff is different, and they're like, right, but it's like too different, and I'm like, but what does that mean? Like, I never know exactly what that means, other than stylistically it's very different. But
and I can see that being a bridge too far for some, like it's just
maybe
too removed, you know. And I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna vibe,
not gonna be for everybody. It's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea for sure, but it's also odd to me because it's like almost creating a line in the sand of, I guess, maybe people that are more like manga versus comics. But I guess for me, I'm just like, I like manga and I like comics. I mean, they're kind of both comics. When I look, the way I look at it now is more of a comic reader than a manga reader, but as someone that started out more reading manga than comics, I'm like, everything is manga and everything is comics, and it's all the same. So, but it's different, but it's the same. So I don't know.
No, I do both as well, but at the same time, I know that there are people who are very much like, and never the twain shall meet, and that they only do one.
And
I'm like,
it is stylistically a different vibe, and I love to binge manga. Like, it is way more satisfying for sure to sit down with, like, you know, to sit down with. I mean, right here I have Deadpool Samurai 2, which hopefully we'll talk about.
I still need to read that, and then we can talk about it.
But yeah, like this whole idea of like getting, you know, trade, getting a volume and reading like through a full volume of something is the best. It just feels so good. And I've never lived the weekly manga life. I've never read manga like that on that release schedule. Although I should, you know, the app, the Shonen app, I think is like really cheap.
It is. It's like $2.99, I think. Like, don't quote me on it, but I know that it's like pretty like accessible, and it gives you like access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and for $2.99 a month, like, I'm like, dang. And you get like everything. Like, and it's fresh. So it's like as soon as it's out, you get it, which is, that's insane to me. That's insane. I'm like, me over here being like, well, in 3 months I'll get it on Marvel Unlimited.
I know, or it's like DC, like, do you want to pay some extra for Ultra? Then you can have it in a month.
Wow. Then you can have it in a month. That's still so long compared to Shonen, which is like, you'll just get it immediately. And they're like, how much is that? Like $2? You're like, $2? Like, what? How do you pay people?
It's because they know they've got you.
Well, they've got you, and it's like, there's probably so many people on there. Like, when you're talking about globally, right? Like, globally, there's a lot of people.
And honestly, like, a lot of people go back and collect it. Like, so
that's true, because I would be that person that would be like, I'm going to read it on here, and then if I really love something, then I need to get the volumes too. Whereas with comics, it's like if you're looking for it digitally, you might not be looking for it physically. I mean, I think maybe we might be some of the exceptions there, where I feel like you and I are the people that will be like, I would like it physically and I would like it digitally. I'd like to have access to both at any given moment. But I don't even need that for everything. Sometimes I do digital, sometimes I do physical, sometimes I'm like, I need both, and I need the trade, and I need a hardcover, and then I need the omnibus. Like, it's like, how many versions of this story do you have? And I'm like, every one that exists. And then I need Masterworks. It's like,
have you seen that like DC's now doing like the smaller like size like essential things? They're going to be trying that too. So they're going to be like a bit smaller and compact. So
tell me more about this. Smaller and compact.
Yes, they're doing like little collections. They're doing a whole bunch of things because they're doing these like they're kind of like essential collections, like with soft bounds of like certain runs, which I'm actually really excited for because they were getting like 90s Catwoman and a whole bunch of Golden Age stuff, which I'm super hyped for because some of that stuff has not been in print for a long time, and you're getting the cheaper price point because it's soft bound. So
wait, it's gonna be like we're gonna pick some things for you that we think are good for this character or this story or this team or whatever, and then it's all going to be in this little. How small?
Well, the essentials are going to be regular size. Let me find the small ones, like DC new size small bound. Let's see if that's enough of a thing. Yes, compact comics format. I found it.
Compact I love the name of it. That's so cute. CCF.
Yes, they're going to be compact. And so far, the initial compact lineup, which is going to be small, is going to have a $9.99 price point. And it's going to include Watchmen, Batman Court of Owls, All-Star Superman, Far Sector, Wonder Woman Earth 1, American Vampire Book 1, Batman Hush, Joker by Brian Azzarello, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, and Catwoman Trail of Catwoman by Darwin Cook. So like it's quite an eclectic.
That actually sounds amazing. I want that. That is a great price. So they're basically like, but what if we just did comics as manga?
But small.
What if we did that? Yeah. Because that's 5 by 5, 5.5 by 8.5 inches.
Chem is saying that, are they out, Chem Dog? Where are these?
They're already out.
Like, why don't we
Where? Yeah. Oh, wait. It says 6th of May. Oh, wait. No, this is 6th of May, 2025. But this might be like the new ones that are coming. Yeah. Where are they? Can we get them? Where do we get them? DC. I'm looking right now. I'm like, must order comics. This is my life. Literally spent $200 on comics today. Must buy more comics. New format. Let me see. Is this it? Is this Far Sector in the... Oh. And you know what? I loaned my Far Sector to someone.
And did it never come back?
I never got it back. And it was my soft cover. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like... But, you know, it was like one of those things of they wanted to get into comics. And I was like, oh, this is one of my favorite ones. And I was telling them about it. And they were like, that sounds so cool. And it was also someone at work at the time who was also queer. And I'm talking about like this hero. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she's gay and she's amazing. And I like love her. And it's by this amazing sci-fi writer, N.K. Jemisin, fantasy sci-fi. I think N.K. Jemisin writes sci-fi and fantasy novels. And I was like, and Art Stellar, Jamal Campbell. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to read it. And I gave it to her. And then she said she was going to send it back to me after she left. And then she never did. Or if she did, it got lost. I like to think she never did because I'm like, I hope she just loved it and she kept it.
She just loved it so much. It seems like it needs to stay with
I'm going to send it back, but then she just forgot because she loved it so much. And I would say, that's fine. And if you're watching this now, I hope you love it. That's fine. I can always get another copy. If it brought joy to someone and I introduced them to something that they love that's a book, it's like that is worth whatever I spent on the book. I'll just buy a new one. But yeah, I see it on Amazon.ca and it is $13.50, guys. And I could get it tomorrow.
I feel like this is big news. Like, I feel like this is like I feel like this should have been everywhere. Like, they're small and like compact and like they fit on your shelf next to all your other things.
I think I'm gonna need to get some and do a video on this actually, because this is like a game changer. That's so accessible. $13.50?
I know.
How much is the whole? Wait, it collects the whole series?
Like, don't you feel like? Do you ever feel like comic book marketing is just?
What is that?
Yeah, because I feel like this should be a bigger deal.
That's why we're here, and that's also why we have amazing folks like ChemDog in the chat to also let us know. By the way, it's already out. Thanks, ChemDog. ChemDog is the comics marketing basically. They should hire you. But yeah, that's I guess where we come in to then get these things and then tell the people like this thing. Look at it. That's so cool.
No, I think it's really neat, and I think it's a really great gift to get people to just like, oh, like, hey, you want All-Star like Superman or like whatever. Like, I think it's fun.
That is really, really cool. So these are already out, and you can get them. And look at that. And I don't know, are they in Indigo? Does Indigo carry them? Where can we get them? Do comic shops carry them?
We're having to do a lot of lifting here. You know,
I haven't. The weird thing is, like, you would think your LCS would be the place that they'd be like, look at this thing. It's a new book format. But also, I feel like maybe comic shops would be like, oh, great, another book format that's a different size. Although this, at least, if you sell manga at your comic shop, they could just put it with the manga. But that also might be confusing because then the people that are going there might not be the people that are like looking for comics necessarily. I don't know.
No, Patrick, no, the compacts aren't gold. The golden aids are like the essential ones where they're still going to be like the usual like size they make. They're like compendiums and like trade size, but they're just going to be soft bound. So they're going to collect a bunch of like things in a chunk like that. And I'm really excited for the Catwoman one, which stops right before the issue that was the one that I remember from childhood, but hopefully they keep going. It goes 1 to 12, and then there's a couple of like the special issues in there.
Yeah, they have them at Indigo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they got
2718 Bravo. Thank you very much. Happy Thursday. Your channel is awesome. Thank you very much. And happy Thursday to you as well.
So lovely.
Oh, Memento Mortem is asking, what's the name again? They're compact.
Compact comics.
Yes, compact comics format.
Yeah. Yeah, compact comics, like a compact disc, but with comics. I really like it, and they're out there, and you could get Brian Azzarello's Joker for $10 right now. It's on special at Indigo. It's 30% off for anyone that shops at Indigo, which I think is only. Are there Indigos in the States? There's Indigos in Canada. I don't know.
Now, the big chain in the States is the Barnes & Noble.
Oh, yeah, the Barnes
Nightwing,
Noble.
thank you very much.
Oh,
yeah, and like, there's like,
really cool.
I think it's cool to have the multiple formats, but that's from a consumer perspective. I'm sure it's quite different from a like stocking a store perspective, especially depending on the size of your store.
But I think it's also really cool because it's kind of a good way to like, you know, kind of put them in near where I feel like that's a good in between of like manga and comics. Like you can kind of mix them. I love when we can kind of mix it up like that. Like it's just a different format when you think about it. Like that's the thing that I always think about with manga. Like it's a different format, but it's the same kind of medium. And so I just think having a small book like that, like you can carry that around with you so much more easily. It's even more accessible than a trade paperback.
I think it's really good also because a lot of kids, if you're thinking about the kid market, are encountering manga first, like a lot of the times. And so then you're going to have something that's going to be in like a shape and size they're familiar with. And then they can check, you know, some of that out. I mean, some of the appropriate ones, maybe not Brian Azzarello's Joker to start off with.
Maybe not Brian Azzarello's Joker to start off, but I mean, I don't know. I will say this, when I was younger, I definitely read a lot of books and I would just grab books off shelves, you know, and I mean, my parents were definitely not like, let me like comb through this entire book to make sure this book. So I've definitely read a lot of adult books when I was like 10 years old, that I was reading stuff and I was like, very interesting. So I mean, yeah, probably there will be a child that will pick up Brian Azzarello's Joker at some point. And I hope that they're okay. I hope that they end up okay.
It's one of those things where I'm like, because I also read and saw a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I think I'm fine, but also I know I shouldn't have read and seen some of those things.
Yes, yeah. Like, I'm fine now, but I think as a kid there were things that I was like, I have questions about this. But you know, picking up something like Far Sector or something like that, which definitely has some adult themes, but I think overall is pretty good. Like that would be a cool one. Or
And
what
I've
else
got
do
some
we
All
have?
Star Superman here, and like,
Yeah,
I
also
really like the Court of Owls storyline. Like,
I think
Hush.
Catwoman could be cool. Ed Brubaker's Catwoman, is that all right? Is that safe?
I mean, I think so.
I think so. Earth One, Wonder Woman. Maybe not Watchmen. Maybe not that one yet. I feel for older people, but
I'm now recalling Catwoman Trail of the Cat. I'm like, wait, is that the one because that's the one that starts off with the Clayface arc where he's murdering prostitutes, right? And I'm like, wait, hold on. Like,
wait a minute. Maybe not that part. Yeah.
Because I'm like, wait, the clay list. The clay list.
The clay list. The clay list is reminding you. Wait, that might not be good for children. But yeah, and you know, maybe not Batman Hush as well. That one might.
No, Hush.
Be...
Well, I would vote for Hush because that's the comic that got me into it. But admittedly, I was in college when that happened. So.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff in Hush I think would be fine. I mean, it depends. Teenagers, I feel like most of these would be all right if you're a teenager.
I'm pretty
probably
sure I
seen
saw
way too much as a teenager.
I'm pretty sure I saw Simone reading Hush already, so it's probably already too late. So
it's too late. That's really, really cool. I'm glad you told me about this. I'm very excited. I'm glad that we all know, and I'm glad that they're here already. And can't wait to see what they do.
That was like it was a whole arc. Like we learned about it, we found them.
This was like a journey. I mean, okay, so when are the essential collections coming?
I saw a bunch of those coming. Some were solicited for October, and I think some were solicited for the month before. So like they're slowly like doing a rollout. So the ones I was really interested in were coming out also in October with all of the other things. So just
what will October be? Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, and I don't even know. And then there's also like so many movies and shows still coming out this year, and games. I'm tired. I'm thinking about fall, and I'm like, I'm gonna need so many lattes in the fall. It's gonna be a lot of reading books. But you know, I also kind of want to do a witch aesthetic this fall. Like I kind of want to get some witchy vibes in my closet, a little bit more witchy vibes. I'm very inspired by the fact that Wicked's coming out in November. And I'm like, that could be good. I'll be reading a bunch of different formatted books in witch vibes in fall, and it'll be a whole look. It'll be very cute. I'm very excited. Witch and vampire vibes, I feel like this fall is what we're gonna manifest.
There's a wig I'm waiting for. I'm very excited for it. I discovered it, and it's the most Punchline wig I've ever seen, and I'm so stoked for it. I'm hoping it gets here before the end of the Gotham City Sirens miniseries so I can wear it in a Punchline video. That is the dream.
I'm so excited. I feel like Punchline is also one of those characters that I definitely would love to do like a cosplay of at some point, because I just love her like aesthetic as well. Like she's got a great design. Also, tell me more about Punchline being a hot tub streamer, because you texted me that and I was like, wait, what? But also, yes, I like that.
So Eric P is correcting me, which is good. The essentials are called DC's Finest. Yes, thank you. That will help people search for them. DC's Finest, and they have Legion of Superheroes, Zapdos, the Legion, Catwoman, Lifelines are December releases, as I recall. So there's a bunch coming out. DC's Finest for the people who want to look for them, which is a good name for them as well. They've been really up on their names lately with like the Absolute Universe, like Finest. That's good. Compact Comics, they're really whoever's doing the naming, like.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is DC's Finest is like some people. I think DC's Finest is pretty good, but like Finest is like you might run into other books, because there's obviously we have finest as a term already at DC, and absolute, I will say, we already have so many things that are absolute at this point that I'm like, it's a little confusing, but that's fine. But I think that these are great names in terms of what they're embodying for sure. Like
Yes.
DC's finest as collections. So cute.
And it matches just, with the vibe of their stuff. Memento Mortem is saying that Punchline would sell her bathwater, and it's true.
She would, and I would buy it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a review on the Gotham City Siren stuff that they're doing, but spoilers in it. There's some Punchline, but it's not really that much of a spoiler because they mentioned it already in some other things. But yes, Punchline is doing a hot tub streaming thing as part of her latest scheme. It's part of how she's amassing money and followers, and it actually ties in really well to a lot of the stuff that they've already established and makes sense. At the same time, I can see some people really not enjoying it. It's one of those things where I'm like, it depends how up and aware you are of that culture and also how much you want to read about it. So, I think it's going to be a Violet's Berries moment.
Right. So, because it's getting into what it is to be a hot tub streamer.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here for that. I personally think that's super interesting. Of course, I follow some hot tub streamers. I have also streamed in a hot tub, so not surprisingly, I'm sure to anyone that's followed me. Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. I think that's really cool. How are you liking the series overall so far? How many issues are they in? Two?
One. We're one. We're one in, and so far I would say fun but not substantive, which I think is what I texted you as well. I think that's my overall general verdict. But as someone who for some reason is the Punchline girly and that I follow Punchline, I think it has a lot of really exciting Punchline potential, just in terms of where it could take Punchline in terms of positioning her in a very unique position for a Batman villain. There's a whole world out there of online crime that I feel like isn't touched upon because lots of people aren't really aware of it. And I think if you were to veer over there, it could be really, really interesting that there's lots of different things. So, but again, that's me just being excited about the potential of Punchline, which is just my thing, apparently.
So that was my thought. Like when I initially saw the lineup for that book, in terms of who's going to be on the team, the one thing I felt was I was like, oh, Punchline. And I was like, oh, like on one hand, I'm excited because I'm glad that we're doing something with Punchline because I do think she's a cool character. And I'm always worried that like, we're just going to forget about Punchline and then like never see her again. And I'm like, that I think would be sad because she has so much potential as a character. But at the same time, I feel like there is the danger of her just becoming kind of like a trope. And not becoming something substantial. So I'm glad to hear that it sounds like the series is at least trying to do something with her and making her something that, like, evolving her story and continuing that in a way that feels meaningful, as opposed to it just being like, and Punchline's in this because why not? You know? Yeah. But sometimes I feel like there's characters that they just throw into a book that aren't even something that maybe the creatives want to do something with. It's just like they have to take that character. So.
And maybe even that was the case for this, but there's a lot of online culture references that I was just aware of from being terminally online. So I'm just like, like there's like, is Leah Williams as terminally online as I am? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Or she knows someone that is and is like, tell me the deets, you know?
Yeah, tell me about the Prime energy drink.
Okay, that's cool. Well, because sometimes it's always interesting when someone wants to do like an online story of like someone that's like, you know, a streamer or whatever, because there's different people that have different perspectives on that, but it's also sometimes people like are like, yeah, let's do like a streamer story, but then like, you know, they don't really know like what that is. And so they're writing it and you're like, this feels very out of touch.
It does. And like, this doesn't feel that way so far. It's only the first issue. But I think the thing that endeared it to me the most is I always love an online story because as someone who enjoys being online, I'm like, ooh, what are we doing? Like, how are they going to portray it? it managed to avoid falling into what I feel is a very played out trope at this point, which is just devolving into it being about online hate comments. And I'm like, oh my goodness, thank goodness we didn't do it.
Yeah, and that also is like, one, it's just so overdone, but two, it's also like when you are someone that's online, that is definitely a part of being online.
Mhm.
But it's also definitely not a part that you need to hit the nail on the head, because like we live that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I would rather you didn't, because it's like I already live that, and when I come to a book, I do like to explore all of these issues that we're experiencing in life, but I also kind of come here to, like, I don't know, get away from that. So like I was having a day yesterday and my escape was Caped Crusader. I went into Caped Crusader and I was able to for a moment just remind myself of like why I do what I do and why I love what I do, and just how much fun, fandoms are, and why I love talking about them on the internet, and that being my job. And then I went into stream and was like, like I'm excited to stream now, and I couldn't stream for a little bit because I just wasn't in a good spot to do it. And then when I came in, everyone was so nice, and I was like, oh yay, this is reminding me of why I love being on the internet, because there's a lot of good stuff too. So yeah.
Damn you all, which is a great name. Thank you very much. Hot Tub, what is she, a boomer? VTubers are where the real money is. Yes, I'm miffed she's not a giant like on the #1 cover. I know she was a giant on that. But the thing is, she needs to show herself so that she can do her branding, because there's a lot of this about like needing to like brand yourself and like marketing and that kind of thing. If she was a VTuber, she would have to have like an avatar that was also
like
a
persona.
Like, but so she needs to be Punchline to cash in on the fandom she does have in Gotham that we've seen from the trial storyline and stuff like that. She does.
Who do you think would be like the best VTuber in DC Comics? Who's who'd be the best
most
VTuber?
likely to be a VTuber?
Most likely to be a VTuber in the DCU.
And why do I want them to fight Tim? But
yeah, is it a villain? Is it a VTuber villain? Ooh, I like that. I like that idea. I'm honestly thinking also Oracle kind of already is in a way, but like in a hacker persona. Maybe
Beast
not streaming.
David Mallet
Beast Boy. Beast Boy would make such a great VTuber. Yes. Oh, I love this.
Booster Gold.
Booster Gold.
Henchman VTubers are played out. No, they are not.
VTubers are great. VTubers are great. The hot tub streamers are great. I think all of them are great. It's just a different vibe. I mean, some VTubers have done, I'm sure, hot tub streams. I'm pretty sure I've seen that already. That's happened. I mean, the cool thing when you're a VTuber is you can be like literally anywhere. Like it's pretty freeing. I always want to be a VTuber, but then I think there's a lot of work that goes. There's like, not to say there's not a lot of work that goes into all streaming, but
there's a different type of work.
It's a different, it's like there's things that they know that I'm like, I don't even know where to start with those things. There's so many technical things that I don't even know, but I love VTubers too.
There have been some horror games that have already played upon fears that I would have if I was a VTuber. I'm like, I would constantly worry that the tech would fail. I'm like, I would just live in that fear that like the tech would fail and it's going to be my face, or like,
I'm already terrified of that all the time as a non-VTuber streamer. And that's like, double a fear. Because it's like, if you don't have the tech, you have nothing. Like you have your voice, but like you need the visuals, and that's all like tech.
Like the avatar becomes like part of you. That's your like persona, like you were saying. So
so if something's going wrong with that, you're like, I guess I can't like be here. I guess I'll just be a disembodied voice. I don't know. What do you do? Get a puppet on a string or something. I don't know. Yeah, make it. That's what I should do. There you go. That's how I could be a VTuber. I'm gonna build a puppet, and I'll sit under my desk, and I'll have a puppet up here. What do you guys think? And I'll have a mic down here under my desk, and I'll just sit under here the whole time and chat. I don't know how I'm gonna game. I guess I could have maybe a monitor down here where I can control the game underneath. Sounding very technical in a different way now, but this sounds IRL VTubing is I think the only way I know how to VTube.
Matt Tam is saying Batman VTubing is Punchline and to Trapper. And Patrick is
It's a trope.
saying, which villain does ASMR videos? I bet it's Luthor.
Luthor would, yeah, I could see that. I like Memento Morum saying a Gorilla Grodd VTuber. I think that, well, I can picture already so many different avatars for Gorilla Grodd. What he could be doing. Kite Man is the ASMR,
ASMR
king.
king. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Damn you all is saying, thank you very much. Also, side note, some VTubers are going through currently labor disputes over who owns the likeness even after you quit. Yeah, I have seen that because it's a whole thing because a lot of VTubers work for companies. So, and then there's the whole question because that's even the question whenever you aren't a VTuber and you work for a channel of who owns the videos and can you have them taken down? Like that's already a whole thing, especially from some of the earlier days when people were really wild westing it and like, you know, a lot of it wasn't contracted. Like the early days
it wasn't
of YouTube
signed.
are wild. So
yeah, I guess it would depend. I mean, that's also when I mean, that's the thing though, when you make something for someone else, it's like you have to think about that when you sign up to do it. But it is hard when it's like, yeah, but that character is me, so you shouldn't own it because it is me. But at the same time, like you could, because it's a likeness, you could like recast that character, if that makes sense. Or it might not even be a likeness, that's to say. I mean, more that it's like it's a persona, right? So you could recast that persona in theory. But also for a lot of YouTubers, their avatars are kind of also them. Like even if they don't necessarily look like them, like it is them. So wow, that's interesting. I'm very interested to see how that goes. I hope that the people that want to keep their stuff get to keep their stuff because it's they built it. I'm sure they worked really hard to help build that thing. And, you know,
and maybe now for people who are unaware of like, you know, some of the behind the scenes, it's something they can look out for.
Something they can think about.
In contracts and stuff like that when you're going into it, because a lot of times when you're going into these situations, especially if you're new and young, you're not sure, you know, what's even supposed to be in there, you know, or what isn't.
Yeah, or you might not be thinking about it, right? You might just be signing and being like, "Oh, this is great," and then later you're like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
Now I want to leave. Like, oh no.
Especially because so many people want to do like online content stuff and like, you know, it's so exciting and like
you get swept up sometimes and you don't think about the future of like, well, what about when I want to leave? And then like, what if this is mine? Like, what do I get? What do I get out of this? Other than, you know, a paycheck.
I'm just scrolling through all the sides of the people saying their ideas. Like the Joker is more of an unboxing video type and stuff like that.
I would be afraid to watch a Joker unboxing video. Like, I feel like Joker's the type of character that wouldn't tell you what he's unboxing, and then in the end, it's like something awful, and you're like, what did I just watch? And then like 5 minutes later, it's like taken down by YouTube for like breaking so many terms of service. Like, but it is like millions of views. Or, you know, it's millions of views, and then the Joker just has to come on and like do an apology or something. And maybe it's fine. That video gets taken down, and they're like, don't do that again, Joker.
Ben Chan saying, what's in the box? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's one of those just like a bang gun situation where it's just it's fine. Yeah. It's something harmless. It's a plushie.
Something harmless. Oh my
Daniel, goodness. Thank you very much. Night terrors, but everyone becomes a VTuber. Boom. Gen Z sale.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, people would love it. People would be here for it. Yeah, VTubers are really big right now too.
They are. I love when people do crossovers and like some of them are VTubers, some of them aren't, and then the people who aren't call themselves meat tubers, which I find really funny.
I have not heard that term, but I love it, and I'd love to embrace it as a meat tuber. Like, meat tuber.
Flesh tuber.
Flesh tuber. Just me and my flesh. Me and the flesh. Yeah, I was talking about this today, and we were just talking about the other night I was streaming, and I have my wheel, and I sometimes do, to like get myself up and moving, I like to do like, I'll do like squats or sit-ups or something, so I spin the wheel and then I have to get up. Sometimes I do push-ups when I'm feeling Like I really wanna entertain people because I hate doing push-ups, but also I know they're good for you. So, ugh. So the other day though, I haven't been feeling 100%. I'm like almost now back to 100%, I'd say. And so on my wheel, people were like, well, how about, I was like, I don't want to do anything too physical, but I also kind of would like to get up because if I'm streaming for a long time, if I'm just sitting, like my knee's gonna hurt. And then people were like, what about stretching? And I was like, that's a good idea. So we did like different yoga poses. And then if people gifted multiple subs, if I spun like a few, I'd try to create like a little yoga flow and do like a little 5-minute yoga sesh on the side. So someone was saying last night that me doing that got them up doing it, and then they were like, I did a workout, and I'm like, I should go to the gym every day, and I'm like, oh, I love that. And I was like, look at us in our little sausage bods, just like taking care of that. But I always think of it, it's like, our bodies are just these weird meat sacks that we inhabit. It's a very bizarre when you think about like it as like a casing. Like I'm like, we're like sausages, and this is like the casing that I'm in that holds me together.
I always think of that horrible description from TNG Star Trek season 1 where they encounter the aliens who describe them as ugly bags of mostly water. So
bags of mostly water. Yeah.
Like it's horrible but accurate.
It's horrible but true. It's also very strange to think when you think about it on a I guess I don't want to know on a is the quantum level, is that the right way to say this, on a what is it called when we go out into space, physics, on a physics level, when you think about the fact that like our cells aren't even actually encased in anything, and we're all just like everything's just together because it's all attracted to each other. It's really weird when I think about it, and I'm like, all of my cells are here because they're just like staying together. There's so many, sometimes I think about so many horror stories I'd love to write, like this idea of like, what if your cells just didn't work like that one day? Like, what if your cells just decided to come away and you just fell apart? It would be cool. And also like, what if that was somebody's power? Like you could just like all of your cells could just, but also you could reform, I guess. But also just discovering that power, like the body horror potential that we have.
To still be conscious. Like
to still be conscious while you're coming apart. Ugh. Yeah. But also so cool.
No, there's a lot of story potential there. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. These are the things that I think about late at night. I think about what keeps my cells together, really. Like, it's very strange to think I'm not even like a true sac. I'm just a glob of cells that are deciding to stay formed because of, I guess, the protons and neutrons and laws of attraction and things like that. It's weird. I don't know. No. I don't know a lot about physics, clearly, but I like to read physics books. And then they get to the math part, and I'm always like, I don't know, I'll just skip kind of these equations. I'm reading through them. I'm like, I don't understand any of this. But then when they get to the actual concepts of how things work, I find that to be so fascinating. Yeah.
Now, I wish I was better at that type of math than I am. Like, I'm really good at, like practical maths. Like, okay, it's time to do the mortgage and like other things like that. But I'm like, I wish I was a bit better at like conceptual mathematics.
Oh, yeah. Conceptual mathematics is like, I'm like, I can understand the idea of what you're saying. Then they're like, now just plug in those numbers. I'm like, which numbers? Like the ones I just said? I'm like, right. How do we get them again? Where are we? I've also sat in on physics classes that were not mine, but I had an ex that was in school for engineering. And he would just be like, you could just come to my class and like sit and read a book. And I'm like, isn't someone going to be offended? Or I'm going to sit there and read a book. Like I would just like be sitting there like reading a comic. Imagine me in a physics class sitting there reading a comic book. I was like, I don't even go to the school. Is this allowed? He's like, yeah, no one cares. They don't check attendance. They don't care who's there. And so I would go, but I would often not read because it felt rude. So I would just go and I would just listen to what they were talking about. Free physics class.
I used to visit other like my friends' classes and stuff. I thought it was so interesting, especially if they were in different disciplines. Like I loved that.
Yeah, it's
It's so
fascinating.
interesting.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was a school, like you could just go to school and all the classes were free and you could just go in and out of classes and just be like, today, I don't know, I want to like learn about this. So I'm just going to go over here. I don't know. Is there school like that? Does any place in the world do school like that? Because that would be fun.
Look, I thought it was important, especially because sometimes in some of the classes I would take, they would discourage the use of sources from the other disciplines. And I'm like, but I want to source from the other disciplines.
But
Like,
why?
don't
Also,
do that
can't
to
it be
me.
relevant? Still, like, I feel like that's weird. And also, it makes me think that, like, there are professors out there that are just, like, afraid of other things that they don't fully maybe understand. But it's like, right, but we could all learn about it together. It could be a fun journey. It's
Yeah, I
called
don't know.
YouTube.
There were some weird
Sure.
rivalries on my campus. I don't know. Like I didn't participate in any of them, but they were like, these departments are supposed to be feuding. I'm like, we're feuding? Like what? I don't know.
Wow. That's interesting. It's interesting what cliques will develop, even when you're like, but aren't we all here to learn? They're like, no. We're here to learn this, and they're here to learn that, and that's that. We cannot intermingle with each other. I had that in art school too, in high school. That was very much a thing. But it was like, it was a regional art school, so it was like the drama kids being the drama kids. And we would like hang out with the art kids, but we didn't hang out with the dance kids. And it was like, well, the dance kids hang out with the music kids. Like, we can't get involved. Even though, and then we'd have a few people that were music friends, but it was like, if the dance kids came in, we were like, we gotta leave. We're the drama kids. We don't mess with dance. But I was like, why? Like, what's wrong with dancers? Dancers are, I know some dancers now, and I'm like, dancers are cool. Why did we think that we couldn't hang out with them? It's very strange.
What was awful was that there would be pranks back and forth, but their pranks were so vastly superior to our pranks that I was just like, oh my gosh. It was like our side's pranks were like writing like salty Shakespeare quotes and stuff on their walls, and like their pranks were unbuilding cars and rebuilding them inside the walkways we had to walk through so we couldn't walk through them. And I'm just like
Yeah, you're like, I would like if we weren't feuding because also these pranks are like really awful.
I was just like, oh, it was so annoying. You'd get to school and be like, oh, I can't walk here because there's a car here.
Someone has rebuilt a car in this hallway. Wow, they had too much time on their hands, sounds like. I mean, I guess, in that way they're learning about the car while they're doing it though. So they're like, we're going to multitask. We're going to learn about how to disassemble and reassemble a car, and we're going to hardcore prank this other department. Well, what departments were those? Were the car builders and the English kids?
We were the humanities.
Writers?
We were the humanities, which encompassed many of the disciplines, and they were the engineers. So
but it also kind of makes sense, I feel like, as the humanities, that you would be the people to be like, maybe we'll like not prank them so hard. Like, but they would be like, we have no concept of how intense maybe our pranks are.
I just thought that they had vastly superior pranks. I was just like, man, they could disassemble a car. Like,
Matthew, really cool. I like Matthew's questions, man. What are we even talking about anymore? I don't know. Sells, cars, pranks, usual stuff. This is comics. We talked about that. We
veered because it's a new day. It's midnight.
Is it? Where did the time go? We always do this, and I'm always surprised when it's midnight. When
it's
you're
really
like
funny. It's when we started this. Remember, I was like, I have links in case we run out of stuff to talk about, and we need to like go to these articles I pulled up, and we didn't even get to them. I didn't even have the like little compact comics pulled up. I looked that up. So
oh, I thought that was maybe one of them when you brought that up. I was like, is this one of the articles you were talking about before? Because this is a good article that I didn't even know about. But instead, we did what we normally do, where we went to a fun tangent where we talked about meat sacks, VTubers.
Well, the VTubers was where it veered because that was connected to the
that was connected to comics.
Punchline, so we know where it went off.
We talked about Gotham City Sirens, and Punchline led us astray. But But that is a thing that she would do. She's like, you thought that I was a hot tub streamer just because it's a part of this book. But really what I'm doing is I'm also trying to derail conversations. That honestly sounds like such an Alexis K thing. I'm not going to lie. I could see her metagame being like, and then anyone that tries to talk about me won't even be able to focus because they'll be distracted by the hot tub streamer part. They'll never guess that I have a master plan. Is she going to become a Batman villain, do you think? Like hardcore?
I mean, she's already fought Batman, which I feel like happened too early, but
Well, yeah. I agree with you.
I would like it if she wasn't actually. I kind of like Punchline. I think if the one thing they could keep from the Joker with her, I also feel they broke them off, like not as a couple, but broke them off from each other a bit too early. But I like the idea of her having that same chaotic energy of just like, she's just a problem for everybody. Like she's a problem for heroes. She's a problem for villains. She's just a problem because she just
likes to cause chaos because she has her own reasons and her own things going on that aren't necessarily like, I'm out to get you.
Like, I would like it if she moved into a rival position with the Joker, like starts off admiring him, but then eventually like changes that perspective. But in terms of like being attached to a specific hero who she's fighting, they keep trying to make Catwoman like and her a thing. I didn't hate when it was Harper. I wouldn't mind, like some people keep pitching like Tim or one of the Batgirls, and I don't hate like those ideas.
I think that one of the Batgirls could work. I mean, I would kind of like to see Punchline go up against like Stephanie Brown. I feel like that could be kind of a cool rivalry. Let's see what we do with that.
No, like even I like people,
Barbara.
People pitch Barbara and people pitch Tim a lot. I think because they also do like some tech style things, so I can see why people lean in that direction. Because like depending upon what you're doing, like Tim games and stuff like that. So
she's still doing poison stuff. She's still doing poison.
Yes, drugs.
Yeah.
So like
drugs.
They focused. Cool. They focused because like drug, like she was always doing a kind of drug thing. And so they've really focused in on the fact that she's trying to like hone like this designer drug and she's been playing with it for a while.
Ooh, I really like that actually. That's very interesting. Yeah, I need to catch up. I have some Punchline stuff that I've read, but I haven't read everything that Punchline is done. And I know she's kind of like popped up here and there. Mm-hmm. And I like that she just keeps popping up. And every time she pops up, she's kind of like doing something cool. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
They keep trying to make her happen. And people are like, stop trying to make her happen. And I'm like, no, keep trying to make her happen. Like, make her happen.
Well, because I feel like every time they try to make her happen, they add something that's like cool to her story where I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's like always like this. It's not like they're like, and now she's like, I don't know. She's like a roller skater that like is flying in the moon. They're not doing weird stuff with her. It's always in the vein of like it kind of fits in with what we've been building with her, so it's kind of just like evolving or adding to her in a way that I'm like, ooh, this is like continuing in a cool direction. Keep playing with it. Keep finding where that is.
Damiel, thank you very much. What was Punchline's kill count for her gas stuff? It was pretty high, and that's one of the reasons why I hope they don't go redemption, because they showed her just dropping it in like homeless encampments on subways, just like she was just going hard. So like Punchline's a monster, and I hope that they keep her like that because she's occupying a space that is, I think, needed, because a lot more characters have moved towards a more like heroic or anti-hero redemption position. So I'm like, we need people to come and take the villain position.
Well, I mean, I think what I like about her as well is that it's like this very strong sense of like, no, like I'm doing all this awful stuff, but like I'm doing it for a reason. So it's like it's justified. So it's like when you have something like that that's so strong, like a strong conviction, I think, as a villain, to want to like mess with things and like mess with the status quo for something that you think is worth it. It's like she doesn't care that she has blood on her hands. Like it doesn't matter.
When they were playing with the early idea that she's the result of growing up in a Gotham that's just constantly in this fear of the Joker and stuff like that, I thought that was really interesting. That like he's the joke, she's the punchline, like literally, like she's the result of the Joker just always being around. Like it could breed this type of person. And I just think that's really interesting. And I think there's a lot to explore there. I really think she's interesting. Some people are just like, she's just so cringe and like throw her out But like, I'm like, I think there's so much there.
I mean, yeah, I don't think she's cringe. I feel like, I don't know. I think anything is cringe, depending, I guess, on how you want to look at it as well. Like, I guess anything can be cringe, but
Well, it's one of those things where because it does have such an online slant, it can go very much like greetings, fellow kids. If you're not, careful with this, like, hello, kids, I too have a phone and have been on the internet. And it's just like, oh no.
but if you keep it relevant in the idea of like these actual conversations we're having, like on the internet or about the internet, then it's like, I mean, then it's just relevant. So there's definitely a fine line you have to walk where you're like, we're going to say this thing about the internet. You know that place. You've all been there. But at the same time, if it's just, this is a story that, that's part of the story. It's not like necessarily like we're trying to say a thing, then I think that is, don't try to say a thing, just let it be the story, you know what I mean? Like, just make sure it serves a good story. At the end of the day, if you got a good story, it can't be too cringe. It will shine through. It will shine through. The cringe can never overtake a good story, I think.
I don't know that. I would never say never with that.
Well, I mean, do we have stories that are really good that have been really cringe?
I could think what I think of is just like sometimes there's like a character or a thing in the story that like even if you like everything else in it, you're like, but this one thing I would enjoy if this one thing was not happening.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. I mean, but if Punchline, if it's her story, then I feel like if it's good, then she is least likely to be cringe because she is not just an element, she is like a huge part of the story.
That's what I think is the good thing about this is that because this is about the sirens. Because I think one of the problems with Punchline is that they pushed her too fast. And they tried to instantly be like, and now she has a mini, and now she has this, and now she has that. And I'm like, yes.
Well, it's like, make us want more. Don't make us be like, what? Are you trying to force Punchline on me?
They were.
That's a lot. Yeah.
They were. And like, there was the statue and like all that stuff. They were definitely trying to force it. I'm like, I like her, but like, you need to let her happen. Like, you need to let her cook,
just
like, give her
let
time.
just let her be, and then we'll come to Punchline. But it's fun because when they introduced her, I was one of the people that was like, oh boy, I don't know about this. And then I read it and I was like, I actually think she's really interesting. Like, just the way that she was kind of introduced and the way that she was constructed, it made me more curious about her. And then when we saw more of her and we kind of opened up, like, this is why she is the way she is and what she's about, I was like, now I'm more interested. So it was weird because it was like people were like, oh great, now there's like another thing, and I'm like, yeah, but I kind of want to read that thing because I'm kind of curious. But yeah, it can be a bit much, and especially when it's someone that's so new. And so, I think that it didn't help the way that she was marketed, but I also feel like it's unfortunate because I don't think that was ever the angle
as the thing, because like
that was intended for her.
Reading through it, like I never fully got that vibe, but at the same time,
everyone was like, she's the Joker's girlfriend. I'm like, she's literally not though. Like,
it's one of those things where I totally understand why. I'm like, the SEO, I totally get why you labeled it this
to market her.
Yeah, like this makes sense from a marketing perspective. Like, 100%.
Well, because now you have to read it because you're either like, what will that be, or you're like, I'm outraged.
No, Stephen Herder, you're right. The saying Punchline instantly beating Catwoman was an eye roll. That's the thing. But the thing is, they've dialed that back. She doesn't win every fight anymore and like stuff like that. So that kind of stuff has been dialed back, but they did start out the gate like that. And so I can see some people just being turned off and be like, you know what? Like, don't want it. But
same with her instantly beating Harley. I was like, I understand that she's new, so we need to give her some moments. But
I wish they had just leaned into the whole drug thing, because that was the interesting thing, and like not like make her some fighting powerhouse, but like have that be like her kind of like skill set. The fact that she was like looking up the Joker's recipes online and like modifying them and stuff like that, like even that cool. was an interesting commentary,
Yeah.
Like those were the parts that were cool, not her like instantly showing up and like being like a kung fu master and all of those things.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what? I like her as more of like someone operating almost like in the shadows, like, or maybe not necessarily in the shadows, but more like on the sidelines. Like, she's not right in the fight, but she doesn't need to be in the fight to be impactful. Like, why does everyone have to kick everybody's butt? I know it's comics. I know that's why. I know. Power scaling. That's why. But this is also why I don't like power scaling.
Oh my goodness, we're being hit with a good morning, and it's accurate.
Good morning.
Oh, we should probably actually wrap up because it is getting later, and
we could talk about Punchline all night. So
yes.
We should do that. Yeah, because we will probably.
It's possible. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out and chatting and going on the ride of the tangents. And thank you, Amanda, for coming and hanging out. Go and check out Amanda's channel because she has so much fun stuff she's been posting. She's got all of the SDCC stuff. She's still kept up with like all the trailers and like all the things. So you're a machine. You definitely need to sleep. So go and check all of that out. So yes, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day, night, morning, whatever it is. And we'll be back, and I'll be back, she'll be back, we'll be back at some point together, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye everyone. Stay nerdy. Bye.